Anyways, hey, what up? This what you wanna see. I'm chilling right here with my boy. It's Douglas Wanderski. That's right. What the fuck? You can't ignore me. This is not the first episode. This episode 140. I got 140 in one hand, going 140 in the wrong lane. You understand? You know me? I think you not, sir. I think you not like me. You not like Oscar. That's my dog. You ain't my dog. Let's get it right. You's not that. We sitting here on a podcast. Yeah, I spit fire. You admire the shit fire. The shit fire. I got a t-shirt, a big flyer. Professional mind blower for hire. What? Hey, I said when I speak, you can't ignore me. That goes for my old boy over here, but he got some stories. He gonna tell you some stuff. Yo, a sick trail he leave behind him, and that's what this episode entails. So this is rules, and I spit it truly. Now get this episode started. Let's start with the doozy. Boom, dude. That was some of the best.
There you go.
That was really good beatboxing, I must say. That beatboxing, you upstaged me. I thought I was doing good, and then what you did right there, like, now I'm kind of feeling like I have to do something to like make myself look cool again, because you look really cool. It's like when a rapper, like if a rapper has another rapper on a song, and then the other rapper sends their verse in, and you're like, oh, I got to rewrite my whole verse. Like, that's how I feel right now.
Well, you shouldn't feel that way.
That's how I feel. Just being honest. If you can get that mic as close to your face as you can, okay. That's the way. But really, you can get away with mostly anything. So, yes, sir. Welcome to Ruse Radio. Pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Episode 140. And you reached out to me, and I'm glad you did. You told me you had stories. That's literally what you said. You said, I've got some stories to tell you. And so I feel like I should just let you take it away.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. All right. So this is... I'm not going to say the name of this one because it may give it away depending on who was watching this. But I'll just go right into the story. All right, and this is going to show my age. So this is on January 8th in 1993. My friends and I, we went to go pick up Martin Blake. He was the grill guy at the Rally's hamburger fast food place that I worked at. And the grill guy. So he was the guy that would put the burger to our buns while he said, "Ham down." And that is how he talked. He was just one of those guys with like a really weird voice. We would make fun of how he talks like all the damn time. And when we picked him up that night, he greeted us. He was having a party at his house. He greeted us with a, "Hey man, I just got done smoking some nutmeg." And we were all like, what the hell? Because we never heard of that. We're just like, all right. And then we went.
You never want to hear that.
It was wild. And we were like, all right, man. But we were just like, whatever. Let's just go get that beer. So when we went to get the beer, it was a long beer run. It took, I'm not sure how long it took, but it took a lot longer than a typical beer run. We had to go to like 2 or 3 different places because there was some issue with his ID. And the main thing that sticks out in this beer run was he was bringing up this shit about a manager, an old manager of his at the Brown's Chicken in Palatine, Illinois, and we were living in Elgin, so it was about 40 minutes away. And he was saying, "I hate my old manager at the Brown's Chicken, man." And when he was saying that, when he was specifically saying that stuff about that manager, I had a really strong deja vu kind of feeling. And I couldn't put my finger on like why, and that was kind of driving me nuts. I'm like, why the hell am I having this feeling right now while he's saying this shit about his manager? And then I got tired of like trying to figure it out, and I just went back to like thinking about the beer. And then the next day when I arrived at work at the Rally's Hamburgers, there was 2 detectives waiting there for me, and I was just like, what? Like, what the hell is going on here? And And I was like, I'm like, all right. But I was kind of like going with it because they were like, do you want to, you go? Well, they didn't say do you, but they just kind of asked me to go with them to the Palatine Police Department to answer some questions. And it's like I'm just like showing up at work. I was drinking beer the night before. I felt like crap. I didn't feel like going to work, and I was like, yeah, I'll go. And I'm not sure what would have happened if I said no or whatever. I'm not really sure what the rights were or whatever. But I mean, I was a minor. I was 17. But I was like, yeah, I'll go because I was thinking like they're not going to be taking me all the way to Palatine because of beer or whatever for getting beer. Somebody buying me beer. I'm like, yeah, I'll go. And it was like two detectives, like typical detective clothes, and then the like detective car and shit, And I'm sitting there in the back seat, and I have like no idea what's going on. And then I bring up about how there was some like health issue with Mike Ditka. I asked them about what they think about Ditka and his health issues and his heart problem or whatever. And they both look at each other, and then one of the guys says to me, he's like, you don't know what this is about? It was like that look that they gave each other. It was like a we have the wrong guy kind of look, it seemed like. And I'm like, no, I don't know what this is about. I'm like, what's going on? What happened? And they didn't say anything. And then we pull up to the back parking lot area of the police station, and then the driver yells, get down! And this is just like, it feels just like going through it. It's just like from a fucking movie or whatever. It's just nuts. And I'm like, okay. I have no idea what the hell is going on. The detective in the passenger seat, he throws his body into the back seat to cover me, basically to cover their ass. And there's all these photographers in the parking lot there. That's why they were doing that. And there was cameras there from Chicago Tribune and sometimes the two biggest newspapers, and there was, I'm not positive, I'm pretty damn sure that there were some TV news stations there also. And we pull inside the big ass garage door, and then once we get inside, then they just take me to this like main area, and it's all these detectives standing around me, and then the main detective guy starts asking me. He says, Doug, what happened in Palatine last night? And I kept on saying the same thing. I kept on saying I wasn't in Palatine. And then he said, Doug, you can tell us about the beer. And then I told him about the beer. And I thought that was funny. And then he says, Doug, and he says, 7 people were killed at the Brown's Chicken last night. And I was just like, and I had like no idea like something like that was coming or whatever. And I'm just like, what, Yeah, like that's when you say shit fire. And so I was just like, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? But I knew I'm just like this is crazy. But I knew I'm just like, well, I'm like, whatever. I'm just like, I knew I had nothing to do with it, so I'm just like, whatever. It's just like, I'm not gonna get all like stressed out about it. And then they took me into the room with the two-way mirror, just like the shit that you see in the TV shows and the movies. And they were doing like the typical good cop, bad cop stuff. And I basically just like was telling myself the whole time, like, whatever they say to you, like, don't be a dumbass and give it. I remember saying something to myself like, you're dumb, man, but you're not that dumb. Like, don't like admit to some shit that you had nothing to do with, And they were just trying everything. And at one point they said, we got your buddy Clinton in the other room, which they did. And they said that your buddy Clinton just told us that he drove you and Martin to the Brown's Chicken, and you and Martin went inside and took care of everybody in the cooler. We killed everybody in the cooler in the freezer. And then they said to me, if you fess up right now, we'll give you X amount of years in jail instead of X amount of years. And I can't remember the amount of years it is. And it's like, for killing some people, like, that's fucking life for sure. And it's like, whatever. But it was just so ridiculous. And they were just like, if you fess up right now, we'll give you this great deal or whatever. And I was just like, yeah, like, whatever. It was just ridiculous. I had to piss. They didn't let me piss. I was locked in that room like 7-8 hours.
Really? They didn't let you piss once?
No.
Would they like expect you to? I would have just pissed in the corner. I would have ended up pissing in the corner.
If I had to stay in there a little bit longer, I probably would have just done something like that. It's like you have to do what you got to do or whatever. And when I got home, when I got home, it was, I think it was around the same time that I was like supposed to get home from work. My mom was thinking that I was getting home from work. It was on that day, that was on her birthday. And it was like, hey, Mom, happy birthday. And let me tell you what I did tonight instead of being at work. And it's like, oh, and I have a nice present for you, but you're going to be getting it late. You're going to be getting it tomorrow. Let me give you the nice picture of me that's on the picture of the Chicago Tribune. That's what happened. So my picture was on the front page, but they didn't have my name. You couldn't see my face because of the driver yelling, "Get down!" But you could see my flannel. I was wearing flannels then a lot because it was the 90s, and it's like you could see my flannel, and it was like I knew it was me, and the people that like knew me and knew my flannel were just like, yeah, it's fucking you. But it was just nuts. And it was just like, it was just like, I don't know, it was just crazy. And the guy that, the whole like thing with that Martin Blake and how we got involved, because his party, he was saying that same shit to his friends that he was saying to us, right? He was, I hate my old manager at the Brown's Chicken. He was saying that to them. And his friends were basically thinking at his party, they're like, well, they were gone a while getting the beer, and he was saying that shit about, I hate that manager at Brown's Chicken. And so they were putting one and two together, and they were thinking, well, maybe, they did it when they were gone. And when they heard about what happened the next morning, they were like, well, I'm just guessing they were thinking to cover our ass, let's just call the police and say that, it's possible that maybe he did it. And so, of course, he's going to tell the cops that he was buying us beer because that's that's what he was doing. That's what we were doing. But it's like when the cops get involved, and the detectives, they just got to try all this shit to see if they can get to the bottom of it or whatever.
I mean, that's how people falsely confess a lot of the time is things that they'll try. They'll make up circumstances like we have this evidence that you were with so and so. It's like, how could that evidence? I literally wasn't with so and so. You guys are lying to me right now.
Yeah,
they'll make things up.
Right, and that's why they had to let us go, because all of our stories were matching. It's like, it's just we weren't trying to hide anything. It's like, come on, And then I remember when I was watching that Making a Murder, when that came out. And it's like with that Stephen Avery, and I'm just like, holy shit, because I'm watching that, and I'm just like, man, like that's the scene where they just like they got him the fess up, but it was just like that whole scene. I'm just like, man, that just like is really reminiscent of that shit that I went through or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, but I didn't. Of course, it's like I didn't like fess up to anything, and it was just like a wild fucking story, man. And it's like when I tell it to people, some people are just like. They're just like holy shit.
Holy guacamole, fish and chips. If you can amaze people like that with just a story, simply a story that you tell them a thing that happened to you in your life, and their minds are blown. Well, sir, you can do that without even trying. I mean, that's incredible. I think we all have skills like that. I think we can all pull something out of our back pocket and make it happen and make minds get blown. And what it is for you might not be telling a story. Maybe it might be, being the best doggy in the whole world, as you can see in the background of this video here. Maybe that thing could be possibly, I don't know, being the best rapper of all time, as you can see from this dude right here. It could be anything. It could be the best comedian of all time. It could be the best public speaker. It could be the best plumber. That's what's so awesome about this world is you can blow minds in all kinds of ways and become a professional at it in your own way. And once you are one, you might as well get yourself a t-shirt that says professional mind blower. Odds are you probably already are one of those things and you can't even admit it. You probably are a professional mind blower already. Maybe to get yourself in the mindset, to really affirm yourself, you buy the t-shirt and you just wear it and you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, that's me. That's me. We got smalls, we got mediums, we got larges. We can make more sizes if you so please. They're $25. That's shipping included. It's super easy to get them. You just check out the description to figure out how to get it done, son. That's right. It's a great way for you to support this show. And if you want to support the show, you like what we're doing here, you don't want to get a t-shirt, well, don't worry. I've got other options for you. It is called Patreon. That's right. $5 a month, the price of a coffee, the price of a beer at the bar, and you are making this thing go down. That is facts. You're making this thing possible. I love doing this show. I love bringing people on. We're doing one every 3 days. We're trying to hit 120 this year. The only way I can do that is with your help. I mean, it is a machine I'm running here, okay? And it is only me behind the helm. So it would help so much if you guys would help fund this show. We could get more heads behind this, more hands behind this, more minds behind this, and that will make this thing grow faster than I could ever do on my own. So please consider it. You know, I want to make this show the biggest, bestest thing of all time, and I hope you want that too. If you do, let me know. Let's make it grow. Okay, now I think where we were was our boy Douglas tells people his story, and they are reacting, baby. Let's hear some more about that.
Then it just, you know, they're just like, you know, when they make comments about like me going through that and whatever, but it's just like, I don't like look at it as like, it was just like so horrible. I mean, yeah, it was shitty. It wasn't great, but it's just like, I don't know. I have my times when I like reflect on it and I'm just, you know, like whatever, but it's like, I have my times when I'm glad I went through it. Just kind of like you go through like a bad like trip or something. It's just like, you know, it's just one of those things where it's just like you go through it and you're just, you know, it's just like, it just kind of, you gain a lot from it. You know, it's like that kind of thing.
Well, it would shift your perspective. Right?
Yeah.
Like, how would you look at things differently because of that experience?
Yeah.
Are there ways that you look at things differently, you think?
Yeah, I think so. And it's just, yeah, it's just like that kind of thing. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I have my times where it's just like, I'll just get like this different, like, point of views about it or whatever. But, I don't know, man. It's just something about like the story. I really enjoy, telling the story, man. And it's just, I don't know. It's just like, just something about it. It's just like going through that and just, you know, and it was like, it was fine or whatever, but it was just, but just like when the thing about like going through something where it's just like, you know, where you hear people's like, you know, reactions to it and this and that, and they say how they think that they would react and this and that. And it's just, I don't know, man. It was just one of those like unique as shit experience or whatever. And, I don't know, man. It was wild. And then, so this is kind of a funny full circle kind of a moment. So this was January 2020, and I'm doing stand-up in Chicago, right? And this was the first time that I did a set where I felt like I just like, for me at that time, because I was new as shit, and that was the first time that I felt like that I just, like, for being new, that I crushed it. I had laughs all the way through. And I was just like really damn happy about it, like super damn happy about it. And I wanted to express how happy I was about it, you know, just like yell out something like a fuck yeah or something. But it was like the people that I was with, you know, I didn't feel comfortable like doing that around them or whatever. And I took the train home, like I'm on the Metro train for like an hour and a half. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. So as soon as I get in my car at the train station, I'm just all about like letting out. So I just start like yelling the shit like, fuck yeah, I crushed it. And then I start saying shit like, you know, like I killed and I fucking murdered tonight. And then it just like came to me in the moment. And then I'm like, I kind of liked it. And I start saying like, I fucking murdered tonight. I'm a fucking murderer. And as I said, I'm a fucking murderer, I see a girl walking behind my car. Like, she was probably just like walking to her car or wherever. But when I see her, and I just started laughing my ass off because I'm picturing her or somebody going to the cops saying that I was in my car yelling, I'm a fucking murderer. Because I was sitting in my car. This was in January. And it was cold as shit. I'm letting my car warm up for a while. So I'm sitting in my car a while. And I'm just like, and I'm laughing my ass off because I'm in the police station is kind of close to where I was. And I'm picturing a cop coming up to me and saying, somebody came up to us and said that you were yelling in your car, I'm a fucking murderer, and I fucking murdered tonight. And I'm just like laughing my ass off, like picturing that, because I'm thinking, you know, that I would be like saying something to the cop like, oh, like you're asking me about killing one person. Like, that's fucking nothing. I was accused for killing 7. That's when I was 17. And so just like thinking about, when I was sitting in my car thinking about that, I'm like laughing my ass off. And then I just like go back to just like, and I kept on like, I couldn't stop saying like, I fucking murdered tonight. I'm a fucking murderer. I'm driving home, like my whole 8-minute drive home. I kept on saying that. And I said it in the driveway for some reason. I was just, because it was just so amusing and funny to me and whatever. I just kept on like saying it. I couldn't stop. And I get in the car, in the driveway, and I say it a couple more times, and I'm like, all right, I need to just like chill out here before I really get myself into some deep trouble or whatever. But like that is basically So I call it my Brown's Chicken Story because the name of the kill, so it's known as the Brown's Chicken Massacre.
Okay.
But see, for the people that live around here and the people, that were around at that time, they know the story and everything. But it's just one of those things where it's just like, I don't know, man. It's just fucking nuts because that Brown's Chicken, they were really popular. And they had commercials on all the damn time. And they had this theme song that was real popular. It would go, Brown's Chicken, it tastes better. And they had Steve, no, not Harvey. Steve Carroll. I don't know if I'm saying his last name wrong. From the 40-Year-Old Virgin and
Steve Carell.
Carell, yeah. Jesus, I really made myself look good there. Carell.
Hey,
Steve Carell.
At least we got to the bottom of it.
Steve Carell. Yeah, and so he was on. I think it was like their first or like very very early commercials. That was like the first of him just like being in anything.
Is he
man.
from Chicago?
Yeah, I'm not sure, man. How that came about. I'm not sure if he's from. I've never heard that.
I didn't even know he's been around that long, Steve Carell.
Yeah, but that was that had to be that commercial. I'm pretty sure that was it was either early 90s or late 80s, and that Brown's Chicken was like super popular. And after that happened, they just had to close a lot. And there's just a few open now here and there, and I don't know the whole story, but there's some kind of connection with them and Portillo's, the owners of Brown's Chicken, where they started Portillo's, and like Portillo's is like freaking huge.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's like those there's two guys that did it, and they got away with it for 9 years, and they basically got away with it for a while because the one guy, he told his girlfriend, he said if you tell anybody, I'm gonna take care of you like I took care of them, bitch, or whatever, however he said it. But he basically said, I'll kill you too if you say anything. And so for all that time, she didn't say anything because she was afraid that he would kill her too. And around that same time, so she finally just said the hell with it, and she went to the cops. And around that same time, that's when DNA testing was starting, like to get to where it's like the cops could use it, and it was like legit and all that shit. And they saved a piece of chicken from so the one guy, it was Juan. I'm gonna butcher his name now. Juan Luna, I'm pretty sure that's his name. The other guy was, I think it was Mike Degorski. So they went in there and they robbed the place first, and then or maybe they had the chicken first. They ate the chicken, threw it away, and that was like one of their big mistakes, was throwing their chicken away or whatever. And then they robbed the place.
Yeah, never eat at the place you're about to rob.
Yeah, because that was the main thing that helped them get busted, or help the cops, just like secure the deal, because they were just like, at that time they didn't have DNA testing, or but when around the time when that dude's girlfriend went to the cops, and then it's like, so he was busted from her confession or whatever, and then the other guy, his chicken, because they saved that piece of chicken, and and then they knew that it's like, all right, well, there's this DNA testing or whatever, and then they did the testing with the chicken, and then they busted that guy, and they went to his house in Carpentersville, Illinois. That's not too far from where I'm living, and then they went to Indiana to get the other guy. And then they brought him in at the same time, and then they're both doing life, and and it's like, it's just ridiculous. And it's like, I read somewhere that they were just, when they were asked about like why they did it, and they were just saying they just wanted to know what it was like to like kill people. It's just like nuts. It's just like, what the fuck? And then the guy that Martin Blake guy, the guy that was, the guy with, that was like ham down and smoking nutmeg, that guy, he was all over the fucking news, because they were basically saying on the news like that he did it, but but there's not enough proof yet. But they were just like putting the shit out there in a way. They were basically just saying like, yeah, he probably did, or he basically did it. But then they had to let him go because they had him for a lot longer actually than me and Clinton. I think it was 7 days, but it was nuts. I remember the news was in like his house and shit, and they were just like showing his room and all this shit. And because of all that bullshit, he ended up getting a big paycheck.
Yeah.
Because there's just a lot of bullshit that they shouldn't have been doing with his name and everything, and with his exposure and showing his place on the news and all that. And then he ended up moving to Florida, took that big check and got the hell out of there. But it was like, even though he didn't get busted for anything, but it was like his name was just, it was still kind of like, it's like they ruined his name in a way or whatever,
Well, that's why he won, yeah. I mean, it's defamation, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, it was nuts, man. And it was just, I don't know, for us, it was just like, well, we got like cool fucking stories or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Bright side. The optimistic way to look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a crazy ending, too. You got caught by a piece of chicken. Just imagine that. Like, you did everything right, but you ate a piece of chicken, and that's how you got caught. You just had to eat that chicken. Like, if you would have just ate before he got there, if you would have just ate at the Taco Bell on the way.
Yeah, but I could be wrong, but I'm thinking, like, nobody's thinking that shit at the time because...
DNA.
Yeah, because they didn't have that kind of testing that, so it's like,
he was
nobody's
OG.
thinking, like, don't eat anything and leave evidence and shit.
Fingerprints.
Yeah.
I wonder when fingerprints really became a thing, because even that's relatively new. Like, with DNA's new. When you said, when was this all, like, the early 90s?
Well, when that happened, that was 93.
Yeah.
And that was 9 years later when they busted them. But it all started when the girlfriend went to the cops. And then, but I don't know, like, the whole they don't really say too much, at least like the interviews and the shit that I read about it where they give out the information. But they basically just say it was like around the same time, but it started with her going to the cops, and they basically say that they busted the other guy at the same time, but they in all the interviews and articles and shit, they always say, like, with that other guy, they always specify, like, it was a big part of it was, the chicken that they threw in the garbage and that they were able to use the DNA testing for that. And it was nuts. And it was like, there wasn't like anything where it was just like they knew the people and like, well, whatever. It was just like these like innocent people. And it's just that they were just like two like fucked up dudes, and they just wanted to experience that for whatever reason. It's just like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's so crazy about it all. But you know what? Like, in the end, you could be the exact opposite, too. You can be the opposite force. You can be the beautiful thing that wants to experience beauty for the sake of beauty rather than allow these negative, crazy people to just ruin the world. They're going to exist. That's what's, living in a city has kind of taught me that. Like, riding the public transit, I really know now, like, you know what, those guys are going to exist. You just got to sit at the front of the train.
Just stay away from
them.
Yeah.
They'll be there, especially at night. You're riding the red line at night, you be careful, but you didn't see that as much where I'm from. Like, I'm from Flint, Michigan, not a great place, but, like, I had a route, I would walk my dog. You wouldn't see, like, a guy who's monologuing about something he's been talking about for the last 10 hours. People are unpredictable, people are crazy, people will do terrible things just to do terrible things, and that's like, it makes no sense to you or I. Like, why in the world would you do something like that? But
it's like lately, at least I've been hearing, like, it's like shit where it's like New York subways and like crazy shit, it's like where one dude set that girl on fire, shit like, it's like, what the hell? So it's like if people are like you're saying, it's just like, you're not used to being on like public transit here, and it's just like, if it's kind of rough at first, and then it's like, well, people could always think like, well, it's not New York transit crazy bullshit or whatever, so it's like,
you won't die, you'll just get robbed. I mean, it's not that bad. But really, though, but
I wouldn't know. You have more. It's like I've like hardly ever go on, on like the on the Chicago public transit shit. It's just like occasionally, but this was like so long ago. It's like maybe like to go to like Wrigley Field for a Cubs game or something, but it's just like, you know, or a concert or something here and there. But it's just like I don't have a lot of memories of that stuff, you know. So
Oh, you're all
I don't
right.
have stories or whatever. Like you, Mike. I'm sure Mike that was on here. He has all
Mike
kinds
Dwyer.
of stories.
Shout
Yeah,
out
Dwyer.
Mike Dwyer,
And
folks.
he'll post from time to time on Instagram, you know, like some pictures and you know what's going on his commutes to wherever he's going.
Yeah, you know what? Now that you mention that, I've seen like some sleeping hobos on his Instagram story.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah,
I remember
I've
one
seen
time
the
I
same
saw a
one.
guy like spread out like that. You know, I was like, yeah, I'm glad he shared that with me.
yeah, yeah. It's like the kind of thing where it's just like you just like look at it and you get an idea of like what's going on or whatever. Yeah,
Out in the jungle.
yeah.
Like, you know, it makes you a little more thankful for your shelter wherever you are. You know, you'll see some crazy things on that public transit. You really will. You know, I once saw someone squat and pee on the back. I wasn't sitting in the very back, so. But I remember what was so funny about it was I was on the phone and like I see the guy in front of me and I see their reaction to what is happening. You know, I see them
Yeah.
looking over and going like terrified, like
Well,
horrified.
you notice that first before. Yeah, okay.
And then
Like,
I
the
look
person
over, like,
was
what could they possibly be reacting like that about? Oscar.
Yeah.
I'm looking at them and I'm like, what could they possibly be reacting like that about? Like they're looking horrified. And then I look over and it's like the individual on the very back of the train squatted with their pants pulled out just enough so
Oh,
they could
my God.
take a little bit of a pee. And you know what? I was going to be respectful. I was just going to sit there and pretend it wasn't happening. But the pee started to
That's
like
nuts.
slowly stream down towards me, you know? Like
That's just
because of
out in the
gravity.
open, and
And honestly,
Wow.
like, I'm not even judging you, you know? You're probably going through it. Like, you had to pee. I understand. But I had to get up and go because the pee was coming towards me and it just got bad, you know? And it was... But you'll learn things about life witnessing this stuff on the public transit. Okay, you learn things. You
Yeah.
really do. That's how I brought this up. You really do.
And you get good
learn things
stories.
about yourself, and you realize, you know what? Like maybe my life's not so bad. Maybe my life is all right. Maybe I do have my things together a little bit. You know, you can look at it optimistically. Be like, at least I'm not. At least that's not me.
yeah,
'Cause
it's
that
a
could
good
be you.
perspective kind of thing. Yeah,
And it could be you. Like that's what's so crazy to think about too. Is like those people weren't always those people. Like when you see somebody do something crazy and you're like, oh, that's a crazy person. Like,
Yeah.
they probably weren't always that.
something.
Oh,
yeah,
they never were.
Something happened, and
Yep.
something could have happened to us. Yeah, because it's like you hear about different stories where it's just like, you know, with different people with like real bad car accidents and stuff. But some of those it just get because it's like some of them can create something that's just like certain like comedians like Roseanne Barr and Sam Kinison. The word is it's just like, you know, they were just like completely different before those accidents, you know. But it's like one of those things where it's like, well, after the accident, it's like then it's like that, you know, like whatever it was amount of time after that, then it's like that whatever years or whatever. But it's like, you know, now they're creating like this comedic like masterpiece kind of shit, and it's just like so like, you know, depends on how you look at it. But I mean that's pretty nuts. But like with both of them, supposedly it's like they were completely different
After?
before. Well,
Or
or either
and
way
after.
you will look at
Yeah.
it, but you're just like before the accident, you're just like a completely different person.
I didn't know that. I didn't know either of them had an accident that changed their personality.
And
It's
Kinnison,
interesting.
supposedly his was just like a huge, like different kind of a person kind of thing, and it's just like, you know, after the accident, you know, he's doing coke and he's fucking, you know, and he's yelling all the time and all that shit, and he's just, you know, being like the Sam Kinison that people think of when they think of him or whatever.
But before that, he wasn't quite that guy.
Yeah, it was like complete opposite. And I'm trying to remember now the details of like how he was, but it was like complete opposite. But that was on Joe Rogan's podcast where I first started hearing that. He was talking about that.
Yeah, he's a big fan of Sam
Yeah,
Kinison.
and that's how I got just like really triggered into into just like wanting to pursue comedy, because it was just like whatever it was like 10 or 12 years ago, and I started watching his podcast like all the time, and it was like, you know, he has a lot of comedians out in there over the years. And I was just like so into their conversations when they talk about their days of doing stand-up in the early days, just everything they talk about with stand-up. And I just kind of realized it's just like, okay, here, man, like I have a really strong interest in this shit. I'm just like, all right, maybe I need to pay attention to, like how I'm feeling about this shit. And it was just like, it wouldn't go away. And it was like, I just kind of knew it was after a while. It was just like I'm going to have to like one of these days just like pursue it. But it just took me a long time. And knowing like my humor and like the shit that I say and stuff, and around the time it was like, you couldn't say anything. It was like certain groups would get offended and this and that. And it was just like, when that stuff just seemed to be like ridiculous or whatever. And I was thinking like, well, if I start now, it won't go good because of the shit that I like to say. But I wasn't like, saying ridiculous shit, nothing like real fucking crazy, but it was just like, I don't know. I just saw it as like, it wouldn't go over well or whatever. But who knows? That could have just been like a cop out or just maybe an excuse to myself because I was being a pussy about it or something. But whatever. It was fine. It was like I started, I started at like it depends on how you look at it, but I mean, I was 44 when I started, but I feel like for me, like that was the best time to start because if I started when I was 20, I probably would have bombed really fucking bad. And it would have been so bad. Either that or just would have been the kind of thing where it's just like, I just wouldn't have been real comfortable with like being in front of people and just like doing bits. And like, I just figured if I tried it then, it wouldn't have gone well. And I wouldn't have continued to go back and do another set.
And based on who you were when you were 20.
Yeah. I don't think it would have went well. And, when I did, it just seemed like I was just like I was ready to fucking go, and I just felt like I really fucking wanted to do it. And I was just like fired up, and then after I did it that first time, it was just like when you meet like a girl you really like, you fall in love with her, or whatever. It was just like one of those things where I'm just like, holy shit, and I just kind of knew I'm like, all right, this isn't gonna be like every once in a while. Like I just knew I'm like I really fucking like this shit. And I'm like, this is going to be some serious shit, like.
And this was what year was this? Like how long ago?
And that was the end of 2019. And the part that sucked about with the timing, because with COVID and shit, it was, and I forget what the month it was in 2020 when the shit started, maybe March or so, around there. Yeah. But it was sucked because it was like, I was like getting going with some good shit. Like I had some good sets going on and stuff, and I was like getting some good momentum, and I was getting some good like writing going and shit. And I'm like all about it, and I'm just like, I was doing it I think like once a week at that time. I was working. I still work a lot, but it was just like that's all I could do, and I was like, I'm like, that's not enough. It's like I wanted to do it a lot more, and then it's like all of a sudden when COVID happened, then it's like you're forced to not do it. And then that was, I think for a lot of us, it was just like brutal because it's just like you're used to going and doing sets and just doing shit. And then all of a sudden you can't do it. But I made myself do, but I liked it or whatever, but I just did it because I had to keep myself writing and just keeping the stand-up going. I did the virtual open mics. And around that time, it's like, especially when those started, you get a lot of opinions. People are like, that's fucking weird. I wouldn't do that or whatever. Because it's like, it's just like, other people that are doing sets. Like you can like see.
It's kind of like a writing workshop more than a.
Yeah, because it's not really much of an audience. I mean, you got the other people that are doing sets. Like they're like, like you can see them on the screen or whatever. But it's just like, yeah, I get it where people were like shitting on it, but I was like, I don't care. I'm like, I have to do something to keep my shit going.
Right.
And I'm like,
to keep the momentum. That's the whole reason you go to the open mics in the first place. Is to like sharpen your material and to constantly keep at it. Yeah. I think you have to do that. Yeah.
And nobody knew how long that shit was going to last with going
at
to
first
the bars.
They were saying 2 weeks. If everyone remembers correctly, it was 2 weeks, and we're still like, okay.
Yeah, I remember hearing that. Yeah, I was like, oh, that's not bad. And we had no idea like what the hell was in store for us.
It was a very long 2 weeks.
Yeah. And then once I started doing those virtual open mics, it was like I would go to the same ones and shit, and then it's like I would I met some like Chicago comics, but I met them, like virtually or whatever, like that way or whatever.
That's
cool.
cool.
And it was cool because it was like at that point I was like real new to the scene and doing stand up in general, and I liked it. It was like like certain people, I'm like, all right, like this girl's cool, this dude's cool, and this and that, and I liked that, and I met this this girl Amy, and I'm gonna
Simon?
Not Simon. Yeah, this may be one of those where I may have to say her last name 30 minutes from now when I think of her name, and you'll be like, "What the hell?" But she was really cool because she was really cool with like giving me a lot of good tips and giving me feedback and shit. And she was doing stand up for a while, and that was like really cool. That was the first time that that I got help from somebody in the scene like that, because she was doing those same mics that I was doing, and that was like really fucking cool. And at first, because it's like, oh, she's she's pretty, and she was like, and during like the virtual open mics, like she was drinking beers on there, like the same beers kind that I was drinking, like the different like stouts, like the dark beer, like those. She liked those. I'm like, oh, she's cool. She likes the same kind of beers I like. And then I found out that that she's into the ladies. I'm like, oh, that figures. I'm like, ah, shit. But it was awesome because it's like to this day, it's like if I just like send her email, if I have a question, I just kind of got out of doing it. I'm at the point now where it's just like I just kind of trust myself, but with stand up stuff, and I don't want to get too dependent on going to people about shit, But in the early days, I think it's good to do that. You get, like I would go to her and ask her about like what can I add to this bit and shit like that. But yeah, like she is fucking awesome. Amy, whatever the fuck her last name is, I'll tell you.
She knows who she is.
Yeah, so that was cool, and it's like those kind of things, man. You remember the assholes in the scenes, in the scene you're in. It's just like all that shit. At least I do, man. It's like, all right, I'm keeping fucking tallies of this shit, and one day. And one day, when I come out with with Stanley the movie, we haven't at least on this episode we haven't touched on Stanley yet.
Oh, we will.
But it's like for the people that don't know, but it's just like, well, one day if I come out with Stanley the movie, and it's like, well, the people that have been cool to me over the years in the scene and gave me tips and this and that. It's like I'm gonna remember you, and the people that are assholes, well, I'm not gonna be asking you to be in the movie. So hopefully it'll be a situation where I have a huge budget and I can get a shitload of people. But it's like, and I think about shit like that, it just makes sense. If I'm able to get, a certain amount of people in the movie, or have a certain amount for the budget and shit like that, it's like I'm gonna definitely do that. And it's just like I don't know, it just makes sense to me. And it's just put people in your scene that you appreciate, and people that you think that they would appreciate being in your movie or whatever it is. And then the people that treated you like shit or what, not that there's a lot of them, but there's, you always get that everywhere. It just doesn't matter. Well, it's just people are people, but it's just like, I'm not going to be doing any favors for that kind of shit for those kind of people, so.
Yeah, I mean, like, if there's any truth to karma, I think it's just that things happen naturally to those people. Like, it's like a story that plays itself out. Like, if you're the person who's negative and you talk shit and you're always looking for negatives, you become like a cycle of negativity that just goes down. And so, like, what you're saying was, like, wanting to help people out and, like, having a community of people like that and, like, creating that, like, if you're that person, I think you're naturally going to succeed because you're automatically doing those things.
Makes sense.
And I think people associate that with you when you make those choices all the time. They think of you as the person like, oh, you know what? He would have given me this opportunity, so I'm going to give him this opportunity. Like, it creates shit you wouldn't even realize you're creating as you're doing it.
Yeah, and it creates a good vibe, and it's just all around like...
it's the way to live life, in my opinion. It's like how you have to live life. If you want to have a life where you, like, feel fulfilled... It's like to do things for other people in a way that you would want them to do it for you.
Yeah.
Like, a way that genuinely feels like you're helping people out.
Right.
It's cool, dude.
Right. And it's like, but don't do it. Of course, it's like, but don't do it with the intention of, oh, it's because it's going to come back to me and
Yeah.
like whatever. But it's just like it's got to be from the heart because like people see through shit like that. It's like we were talking about before this episode started. It's just like with artists and stuff and with comedians and stuff. It's just like you got to be authentic because like people will see through shit eventually. But it's like. Yeah, it's just like that whole thing. It just makes sense with just like, just be good to people, and it's just, it just makes sense. And it's like, once you just get used to it, and it's just like, it's how, with me, it's just like, well, that's just how I fucking do or whatever, or however you want to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes...
I mean, like, just with people in general, too, dude. Like, you just... Everybody is different, and I think you can learn from people, too. Like, I think when you approach things that way and you're open to people, you'll learn so many different things from so many different people. And, like,
Yeah, that's true.
Always consider the source, right? Like, somebody who's, like, an okay, like say it's okay. So two people give you advice on one joke. But one person is somebody who goes to an open mic maybe once a month. The other one is like a comedian who gets booked all the time. Obviously, take the second one's opinion more seriously than the first one. Because people will say anything. Like with making music. Like, I'll show people a song, and one person might not like the song. The other person might love that song. And so it doesn't really matter. Like, in the end, like, you have to think about that with everything and take everybody's opinion in these ways. But... you have to get opinions. Like, you can't just make everything in this tiny little box. You do have to, like, have good friends and show them to, different people just to see what happens, because I just think that's important with everything. Like, always screen your ideas. I think what's cool with comedy and open mics and all that is you can screen your ideas in real time at an open mic multiple times.
That feedback. Yeah, that's huge.
Live feedback. Yeah. Like, and it's not going to be fake. It's going to be absolutely real. Like, either you made them laugh or you didn't laugh. So that feedback is essential with comedy, I mean, how often do you write new material? Like, how often are you making new stuff?
Yeah, it's not as much as I would like to. And it's the kind of thing where it's just like, I'll have my times where it's just like, and this seems like a lot where it's just like, there could be like kind of a constant. It seems like it's kind of like constant where it's just like, it's like a filter in my head where it's just like wherever I'm at, if it's like a grocery store or whatever, like somebody's talking in front of me, behind me, or if there's like a TV at somewhere and you can hear what's going on TV, like anything where it's just like, it's just like you can hear people talking or just like anything where it's just like, or it could possibly be a bit. It's just like, it seems like I always have like a filter kind of thing going on where it's just like, okay, is there something there? But that's like all the time. But as far as writing shit, I mean, it's not as nearly as much as I want it to be. And it's just one of those things where it's just like, it just like shit comes to me in different ways. I have my times where it's just like, okay, I need to just like sit down and write but it's like majority of my stuff, it doesn't come that way, but it's probably because I need to spend more time just like making myself like do it that way, like do a kind of thing where it's just like, I turn off the TV, like all the distractions are off, and I'm just basically like, I'm writing, this is what I'm doing now, and like anything else, like I'm not considering it. And it's just, like this is what I'm doing for whatever amount of time right now.
You know what I would say, dude, is like try to do that for like small amounts of time at first. Like just say 5 minutes. Say, I'm going to take 5 minutes.
Recommends doing that. Yeah, right. And it's like, do it like that.
Because like eventually that 5 minutes will turn into 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's like working a muscle and just kind of, work your way up there. And it's like I have my times where it's just like, all right, like I know it's just like, all right, I just need to start getting myself in a habit of doing that, but I will eventually. But it's like, the bits that have done well for me, because I notice just like, okay, like what was I doing, when I came up with this one, shit like that. So like for me, it's just shit like if I'm doing something where I'm like moving my body, kind of like exercise, but I'm not like exercise, but it's just like if I'm doing something where I'm like moving my arms, working my arms and shit, and it's like, that kind of thing, doing some like movement and action, it triggers the shit for me. Other people say that shit too. And then driving, and I've heard this, I don't know if it's the right side or the left side of the brain. So when you're driving, let's say if it's the right side, like that controls the driving, whatever. And then the other side of your brain kicks in And then that's like the creative side and shit. But it's just something, you know, it has to do with like your brain when you're driving. And I noticed that. And so I've came up with some good bits when I'm driving, but I've had like my best shit was when I'm out. But what I was saying, I'm like with, you know, like doing like activities and shit. But it's like when I have a garden plot in the spring and the summertime where I grow a shitload of vegetables, and it's a big garden plot. It's some years it just depends if they want to give me a little extra. Last year they kind of went kind of a little slim on me, but it's usually like 30 by 40. So it's a big area. It's a lot of raking. So I'm doing like raking and shit like that, and just like taking care of the soil and everything. It's like, you know, I'm doing just a lot of just like moving like my upper body and shit. And it's just like, that just gets my creative thinking going and shit. And that's where I've noticed like where I come up with my best shit. But it's you know, but like I said, the filter is always going. But I just kind of like, I try to just notice what works for me. But I'm definitely gonna get myself eventually into that habit of just like sitting down and just, you know, and then just like making myself right, even if it's shit, you just keep on doing it, and because it'll lead us, you know, it'll lead to the good stuff. So, but those moments where it's just like, you know, when the good ones hit you, it's just like you kind of, at least with me, it's like certain ones, it's just like I know right when it comes, it's like, holy shit, that's good.
Oh yeah.
And when you turn something, this happened one time that I can think of, unless there was another time I'm not remembering or something, but one time when I wrote a bit and it was I'll just say it was bad at first. But I don't remember the last. If there was a laugh, maybe it was like a small laugh, and I could barely hear it in my recording of it. And so it was a bit. So it was a curved dick energy bit. So I have a bit to where it's like for this curved dick energy bit, where it's like I sing a song with it. You know, after I talk about it for like a minute or whatever, or not a minute. It's like whatever, 15, 20 seconds, and I go into the song about it. But when I originally did the bit, I knew, I'm like, the idea is good. I'm like, something good is here. But when I did it the first time, I was like, yeah, that was just like really fucking bad. But I knew, I was like, something else is there, but it's not what I did. I knew it was something completely different. And then I went out in the garden plot, whatever it was, a couple days later, and then I'm like raking my soil and shit, doing that shit, and then the song came to me. And then I knew like right away, I'm like, this is fucking it. I'm like, this song is fucking good. And then basically I just like took the idea of, the song, the Big Dick Energy song, you know, and I basically just like wrote like curved dick energy lyrics that just like came to me like to that song. And I was like, yeah, this is like really good. This is what I've been looking for this bit, because it's like when I originally like thought, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like this like curved dick energy bit or whatever, and I knew, I'm like, this is a great fucking idea, but the original idea of how I did it was horrible. It was something like these girls were talking, and they were just like talking about like, you know, like this guy that has curved dick. It wasn't really funny. But once I came up with the song and everything, and that's when I came up with, because in the bit I say. I basically just say like how I was thinking about big dick energy, and I was thinking, how come we never hear anything about curved dick energy? And I say, because we should, because a curved dick hits the spot, G. And like when I came up with that, I'm like, holy shit, I'm like, that's like really fucking good. And then, but I knew like when I wrote that, I'm like, okay, like this is leading to the song. And then that's my next part. I basically just say, well, how come we don't hear it in any songs? Like, and then I start going dun 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 like in the song, in the Big Dick Energy song, right? And so then it just kind of like came to me when I'm out there in the garden plot, and once it like came to me, it just kind of came. It was like flowing like pretty easy, and I'm like, holy shit! And I was thinking like, I could have gave up on that bit, or I could have kept on going like with that original version and just like changed it a little bit. But I completely went with completely different version of, for that bit, coming up with the song and everything. And I didn't, do like the girls talking or whatever, And I just recognized, I'm like, all right, that was a horrible idea for this bit. I'm like, but something else is there, and it'll come to me. I didn't worry about it. And then I just noticed, I didn't try to force it, because picture myself. I could have been driving home from that mic and trying to force it.
Right.
And it would be probably would have been another shit idea. But it just seems like with certain bits of mine, the certain ones that do really well, it's just like it's like I just kind of like let it come to me or whatever, and it's just and you just kind of like know, like I was saying, it's just like, oh, that's like really fucking good, and I'm just glad I didn't like give up on that. And some people may say there may be something else for me as my best or my favorite, their favorite. But as far as like comments from people, that's the one that gets the most where they, where it's just like, or I think like, okay, well, maybe I just consider that one like my best bit or whatever. And so I just love that story because it's just a good example of just like recognizing like you do something like, okay, that wasn't good and just fucking throw it away, but don't completely throw away the idea, maybe there's something else there or whatever, at least with that particular one. But it's just a good example of just like, you just gotta, I'm about to say, like, listen to your intuition. Like, somebody could say, well, you did on your first version of that, and it was shit. It's like, well, yeah, but it's just like, but you have to go through that. You just have to, you know what I mean? You go through trial and error, and then, but it's just like, sometimes you just, you just kind of know or whatever once it hit, but it's like, that's part of it. Sometimes you'll come up with dog shit versions of a particular bit, and then it's but it's fine as long as you like recognize that and then and learn from that.
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately like everything you're making is a product of your taste, and it's a product of what your experiences are. So I feel like as long as you, kind of like what you just said, like as long as you're taking all those things and noticing when it doesn't like resonate the way you thought it was gonna, and paying attention to that, like the only thing that can happen is you can get better, or you just ignore all that and just make whatever you're gonna make anyways, but just like,
right,
it's all you no matter what. Like, I like to think that it's all like, at the very least, everything is what you curate. It's what you choose to put there, and so like and I think like as long as you hold yourself accountable too in your mind, like if it didn't get the reaction you wanted, how could you have fixed it and what could you have done? Like, that's how you really figure it out, because there's a million
that's
different
where you got to
things.
be careful. Yeah, because it's like that. Like I'm guessing you probably have heard this like kind of shit before from like Rick Rubin says this shit a lot, where it's just like the shit where it's just like, when you're making shit, like he'll basically say whatever it is, music or like anything, it's like creative shit or whatever. It's just like, it's like you're doing it for you, and it's just like that's the main like. That should be like the main focus. It's like as long as you like it or whatever. But it's it's like I get that. It's just like, and I support that. But that's why it's like where it gets tricky with like stand up and then with music too, because it's just like, well, I mean, some people have to like it or whatever. But it's like I completely get from where he's coming from. I mean, it makes sense because it's just like you don't want to just be doing shit because you think Sammy and Susie are gonna like it, and it's just. Like I was saying shit before, because people will pick up on shit if you're doing it for the wrong reasons and you're not authentic, and it's just so and it's just like with my authentic shit, yeah, my mom's gonna hate it, and I've never sang that song in front of her, and it's just like other bits where it's just like I will never do it in front of my mom, and it's just like it's the kind of thing where it's just like I'll say like I support being authentic, but it's just, even though it's like where my mom probably will cringe when she sees some of my bits or whatever, but it's just like. And I'll say like, maybe it's a little fucked up, but it's just like whatever. It's just like I'm still gonna do that, and it's just that's the shit that people appreciate.
Oh yeah, I agree. So I mean, that's why ultimately that's like my theory with everything, dude. I think that people just want reality. They want real things. I think we've been starved of real things. I think social media is anti-social. Like truly, it's the opposite of what it says it is, and it's created this world of people who. Like aren't as used to reality. They're not as used to real things. Like the way we interact with each other is less real than it used to be. And so like
it's a lot different.
When you see people being real, it's almost like refreshing. You're almost like, whoa, like, that's really nice. And that's why like great stage performance and great comedy and those things are so important, because it keeps us in touch with that real thing. And it's like those moments you capture, those real experiences you can have at a show, like that stuff is real. And that's just probably the most real stuff there is. And so, you know,
yeah, you're getting real reactions, and it's just
creating a real moment.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, it's the kind of real that can suck, you know, if you get like a drunken heckler or whatever. But sometimes it can be like complete opposite, you know, when you just get like really good reactions, and you know how that shit is from doing your stuff in front of people. It's just like when you get the real good crowds, like that feeling you get. I mean, it's just like, you know, it's a drug or whatever it is, however you want to describe it. But it's just like the kind of feeling when you're just like really like crushing it on stage, and it's like addictive as shit. You're just like right away, you're like, yes, I want that feeling again right a fucking way. And it's like sometimes it doesn't always happen like that. It's just, and then, you know, then sometimes like the next time it could be, you know, like it'd be like a huge bomb, and then you're just like, all right, but it's just like it's all part of the shit. But those are good too, because the big bombs, those are the ones that can lead to some of your best sets.
Right.
And it's like I've experienced that, you know, because it's just it can get rough as shit, and you're just like really breaking it down afterwards. If it's a real bad bomber or whatever, and then it's amazing how it just kind of kicks the shit into motion, where it's just like, I can't really break it down really good, but it's just like somehow it fucking does it, and you just, you know, a lot of people, they say it too. It happens with them, and it's just, you know, and then
what bombing just makes them.
And that the time that I was saying, yeah, in the Browns chicken story, where that first time I felt like I crushed it, that was after a bomb, and it was like night and day. It was just like how the set was and everything. But it's like that's how a lot of the shit happens. It's just, well, I don't know, but it's just like I hear
Well,
like
that's
a
why
lot
you
of
got to
people
test out new
say
material all the time too.
Right.
That's why you got to test it out, because
Yeah.
like it could go from the bomb to crushing in one set if you just flipped one thing in the story sometimes, or like
Yeah.
you never know what it is that you got to change. You know, that's the fun part, is figuring that out.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to imagine for comedians that's a big part of the fun, is, you know, just figuring these ideas out on stage and getting to the point where they are a perfect 2 minutes, a perfect 3-minute joke, you know. And
Yeah.
at first it was a rough draft. Like, that's a cool feeling.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if I was writing music live on stage for a month.
Yeah.
That's the difference. You know, I can't do that. I have to write it all in my dungeon. You know, and it doesn't change much.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Yeah. If I want it to be good or whatever, it's just like, yeah, I can't just like do it on the fly or whatever. And you I forget who the guest was, but I mean, you've said this before in one of your episodes, which is so true. It's just like, it could have been, maybe it was Harold, I think, but it basically about like, you could do like a bit somewhere and it crushes, and you go to another place and then it just bombs. I mean, you don't know. It just all depends. It's just, you know, like that shit definitely happens. You know, it just depends on the crowd and what's going on, you know, and it's just like, you know, there's no telling. It's like I had a situation where I was doing, I'm bringing up Stanley again, and it's like I'm, for the people like that are not familiar with him, they're like, all right, who's this Stanley? All right, so basically, it's what Stanley is. It's a character that I created named after the Stanley tape measure, and then. Yeah, but I don't want to, whatever, unless I just end up doing it or whatever. But anyway, so when I was doing Stanley in my set, and I did some other shit or whatever, but it was like this, basically at this open mic, it was at the end of the mic, but this was why it wasn't like a good night for me or whatever. Basically, it was like the set didn't go well because it was at the end of the night, and then people started talking. And, but I mean, a lot of people in the scene, they know this shit, whatever, but it's just, you know, it's just like, you know, try to get to the mics early, you know, it's just, you got better sets if you're on early compared to at the end, stuff like that. But I don't even know at the time, I don't know, it could have been something like it was a while ago. Like I just, you know, it's like, I just running, I don't know what it was, but whatever. But I was at the end of the mic, and it was just like, it was horrible. It was like no one was listening, and it was like these girls were talking, you know, but it's like earlier in the mic or whatever, I noticed those girls weren't talking, but at the end they got like a fucking attitude, and it was, you know, it was just like real bad as far as like audience reaction and laughing or whatever. And I'm like, that fucking sucked. But I knew the material was good because it did good before. The next night, I just fucking crushed with the exact same set. And it was just like, I went on kind of early. It was at a different place, but it was just like, night and day. And then that was a good, like, early on where I learned from experience. It was just like, look, if you have a bad night, it doesn't necessarily mean that shit is bad. I mean, it could, but it's just like in my situation with that night and the next night, it was like, my shit crushed the next night. It was basically because, like, it was at the end of the night at that mic, and just, whatever. I get it. Like, I'm at mics at the end. Sometimes I'm not as attentive or whatever, but it's just like, you never know. It's just like you could go do that shit the next night and it just crushes, and then that's what happened, and it was, it was just like, it was, at first it was just like holy shit, but I just kind of knew too, because it's like you hear stories and it's just like, you just kind of know like something like that'll probably happen,
Oh, it's bound to happen.
Yeah,
Inevitably at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just, it's just one of those things where it's just like, you just need to, for the people that are like new to that kind of shit or whatever, it's just like you just have to catch yourself before you just like tell yourself like, oh, like I was crap tonight or whatever. And it's like, well, that's maybe that's not the case or whatever. But there's just so many different factors. You can't just like, just say whatever. There's just so many different things that have to, that fall into that shit or whatever. But it's like, for me, and I think a lot of people say this, it's just like the bad nights, all that shit, it doesn't matter, because it's just like you love this shit. It's just like, you're going to want to keep on doing it. And it's just like you're going to want to keep on getting better, even if you have like a period where it's just like rough patch or whatever. It's like it doesn't matter. It's like if you love something, it's just like I noticed right away. It was just, it's just like, all right, this isn't just something that I'm just like trying out and so like whatever. It's just like I kind of knew of like, all right, this is something different here. Like this, like this is something really fucking special for me. And it was like I had this period. It wasn't like super dark, but it was this period to where it was like, because it's like the job that I have now. It was like, because I've been there. It's like a long fucking time I've been there. It's coming up on. In April, it'll be 18 years, like a long fucking time, right? And so this was after like whatever it was, like 12 years or whatever it was. It was just like, I was like doing like the same old shit, same job, everything for like every day. It's like the same old shit, and that was my thinking. It was just like, because I noticed that, and it was just, and I was like, not that I was like wanting to kill myself, but I was like. I'm like, well, it's always the same shit. There's really nothing for me to like really get excited about. I can't remember the last time I really get like excited and shit about shit. And I'm like, this kind of sucks. Like, shouldn't I be like excited about some shit in my life? But like I said, I didn't let it get so dark where I'm just going to kill myself. And then once I started doing stand up, I'm like, this is the shit that's been missing. 'Cause it's just like right away, I was just like, I'm fucking excited about this shit, and it's exciting when it's so like it's live, and you go, anything could fucking happen, and you notice from your writing at any time a really badass bit can come to you. Like you could like one day you could be thinking like, and this has happened to me, where it's just like, I need to write some new shit. I haven't wrote anything in a while. Like I'm a crappy fucking or whatever. I can't come up for shit these days or whatever. And then you never know. And then the next fucking day or whatever, something comes to you that's like really fucking good, and you know it, and you're just like, holy shit. And it's like, well, that changed quickly. Like now I have like something that, from what it seems like for right now, before I tried it out or whatever, before I try it out, it seems like it's pretty fucking good or whatever. And that, but it's just like when the shit comes to you and everything, and it's, and it's just like, and you just see just like a little bit of the rewards of it, that's when I'm just like, I am so fucking all in, just like I'm not going anywhere, and like whatever, even if it gets rough, it's just because it's just when you've never experienced anything like that, and all of a sudden you're just like, okay, I'm passionate about this shit, and I could tell, and it's like this is different, and it's just like. It's just like, holy shit. For me, it was a holy shit moment. And I was just like, thank God. I had my times where I'm just like, thank God I tried. And I went to that first open mic. Because I could have said, no, I'm not going to do it because I'm scared or whatever. And I always would have been like wondering, but that's the thing. I realized I'm just like, I don't want to be on my deathbed one day wondering what if. And because I know that would be one of them, if not the only one. But like the stand-up shit, like what if I never tried, or if I did, if I did try, what if I did try, it's like, but I didn't, because I was too afraid of what people would think and this and that. And the thing is, but I have to say this before I say it, because this is a quote, and I don't want to like take credit for it. This was, I don't know if you ever heard the band Ween, but the singer of the band, Dean Ween, and one of the, so there's two guys in Ween, Dean Ween and Gene Ween. It's like the whole idea of the band, their name is just like something that seems like they came up with when they were high or something. But they were young as shit. So anyway, he said this before in an interview. He said basically he was just saying, but I took it as like stand up or like whatever. It's just, but I don't know. I remember like when I first heard it, it was like, I don't know. It was like, it seemed like it was kind of directed at like doing stand up, but I could be wrong. But basically he was just saying like, just go ahead and try it. Don't worry about people thinking that you're an idiot, because, he's like, they're going to think that anyways. They already think that. So it's like, who cares? It's just like, so just like go fucking do it. It doesn't matter. And chances are, for the people that are watching that have been thinking like, well, I want to try it, but I don't know, or whatever, just, but it's just like, you kind of know, like thoughts come in your head a lot, like stand up or whatever it may be. If something keeps on coming up in your head where it's just like, you haven't tried it yet. But it's like, well, it's probably coming up in your head a lot for a reason. And then finally you just have to get to the point where you're just like, fuck it, and then you just do it.
Well, it's like you said about trust your intuition.
Yeah. Because that stuff is
that's
huge.
your intuition. It's telling you somewhere in you, like,
that's huge.
I think it's important that you follow those signs in yourself, because, like, in the end, like, whatever your signs are uniquely your own too. Like the fact that you'd even want to do comedy is always an interesting question to ask a comedian. Like, how'd you end up in comedy? Because it's you'll hear similar stories, but it's never quite the same. It's always
everybody has a different.
Thing,
and it should be that way. It should be a unique thing. Yeah,
and because like something called to them. There was at one point, like maybe they loved comedy their whole life or whatever. Like at least a lot of the time, there's that. Like they saw themselves they saw it in them. Like they saw comedy and they saw that they maybe could do it, but then one day the switch flipped and they finally went for it. Like most people weren't comedians since they were 15.
Right.
Usually it's like in their 20s or the 30s they finally went for it, and it's just like you got to follow that stuff. You really do, because otherwise, you will be on that deathbed and you will think those things.
Then that seems just like hell to me. Just like one day where you're just like, what if? And I'm, and I just kept on thinking of just like, like, well, I don't want to be like that. But that wasn't like the main thing. But it was, but that was like a good part of it. But there was one guy. But I was kind of like waiting for this to happen. There was one guy who said, it's like a situation where like somebody nudges you or asks, or like, have you ever done, he was like, have you ever done stand up before? But it was like, it was like at this time. So this guy was a supervisor of mine at the job that I'm at now, but he's not there anymore. But yeah, shout out to Nate, and his last name is similar to Amy's. It's the one where it's like, I'll tell you later.
Is it Nate Nags? Is that guy?
No.
Okay.
But he's like, dude, it's like from the burbs, and it's like, as far as I know, it's like he doesn't come to the city much or whatever. It's just like always like when he's doing shit, like when I see shit on like what he's doing on Facebook, like posting places and this and that, it's always like in the burbs. But anyway, so it's like there was something that I was like going through at that time. It was like, and I was like, just kind of like started like busting out like a lot of different like things that I thought was funny jokes or whatever, like around him. And that was like my way of just kind of like, just like choosing to like deal in a positive way, like the shit that I was, I was going through or whatever, like shit in my head. And it was like when I was at work, and then I was like, I'd do it around him, and it was just, and I noticed, I'm like, all right, well, he appreciates my humor and shit. I just like kept on doing it or whatever. And then, but it was like around that time, it's like, I knew like for a while I was like wanting to do stand up, but it was like I was saying before, it was just like, there was just different things. It was just like, yeah, I don't know. My shit just may be a little too much or whatever and this and that. And like whatever, but I don't know. I think I just needed somebody to just kind of like say something like, "Hey, maybe you should do it," and that's basically what happened. Or he's like, "Have you ever done stand up?" And then I'm like, "No," and then he's like, "Well, you should." And then just right after he said that, I was like, "I'm gonna do it," because I just kind of knew. I'm like, that's what I was fucking waiting for, kind of thing. And it's like, and I just kind of knew, like, yeah, it kind of seemed like I was like wanting to do it soon, but I was just kind of like waiting for something like that. And then I told him like, "All right, man, I'm gonna fucking do it," and I was like, "Thank you," and all this stuff. And then shortly after that, it's like it's like I'm like, I'm definitely going to do it. And it's like, I kind of like set like a ballpark date, but it was like, I didn't go until I felt like I had stuff that was like, for me, I was like happy with and shit. And it took a while. And so that was the first time I was like, writing shit, knowing that I was like, all right, I'm going to go and try stand up. And it took a long fucking time, and it was like, because I was so new to it, and shit. But it was like, I've had times where I like, I wasn't trying to write a bit, but it's like I came up with something, I made people laugh, and it was like I could do that shit. But it was, I don't know, it was different. Like you're writing for your first time doing a stand up, and I'm just like all right, I realized like this is gonna fucking take a while, and I think it was like sometime in the summer when he said that. I wish I remembered the month, but I knew it was. Pretty damn sure it was the summer. And then when I went to do the first time, man, that was in November of that year. So it took a while, man, because it was just like, it took a while for me to just like write shit to where it was just like, I'm like, all right, this is something I want to like do in front of people. And then the first bit that I did, this was kind of cool how this happened. So I was at a bar, and the girl, the bartender, she takes my debit card, and she sees my last name, and then she says, "Wanderski, that's a cool last name." And then I say to her, I said, yeah, I said, it's cool until somebody calls you a Polak, because it's like with the SKI, because that's just like classic like Polish last name. Okay. And it's like I was called that plenty of times, like in my teenager or whatever, and it just kind of like came to me, and so. The guy next to me, I didn't know him or whatever, but he laughed. And then I'm like, okay, that guy fucking laughed. And then she smiled, but I could tell it was like she liked it, but she just didn't laugh. But I could tell like she appreciated it or whatever. And then I'm like, all right. And I'm like, well, this fucking dude laughed. It was a decent laugh. It was pretty good. And then I'm like, fuck it. Because at that point, I didn't have anything written for my set, my first time going. I'm like, that's going to be the first thing that I do. And it was cool because it was like I tried it out, but I did it, you know what I mean? But it was like an accidental trying it out. I'm like, all right. I'm like, this is already works, kind of, whatever. One person laughed and a smile. And I'm like,
it's funny.
Fuck
like,
it, man.
I've had conversations with comedians like after shows, and I've seen them like say the thing they said in our conversation, but as a bit on stage afterwards, and I can't help but feel like hey, like I played a role in that,
Yeah, like give me a shout out or something or whatever.
Yeah. I can think.
How did it go on for the person on stage, like when they did it in the bit? Did it seem like it worked
out? It worked out because you know what? Like that's probably where a lot of material starts. It's probably literally that.
I've noticed someone else doing that too. Yeah, it was like at a show, and then it was like, the comics that were going up, it's like we were just like hanging out, and then like one comic said something, and then the other comic responded or whatever, and it was like that was the first time he said that, and then we laughed at it, and then he like brought that up, and he did it in his bit, like you're saying, and it was cool, and it's like, yeah, that's cool.
It's got to make it work somehow, like slide it in the right way, whatever it was that you said. First you have to remember what you said.
Yeah, that's how. Yeah, that's why how it can be tricky, because it's like you just like think of something last minute like that, and sometimes you don't get a lot of time to like think about, like you say, because that's like huge, like how how you're gonna like segue in or whatever, just however you say it or whatever. Sometimes certain things can be tough. It just depends on what it is. Sometimes it could be like easy or whatever. You don't know, but yeah, that shit rules too. It's just like, with that kind of thing and like riffing and everything. But that's one of the things. It's like with writing, it's the same thing. It's just like, I know it's like I need to riff more and that kind of thing, and yeah, dude, it's just like one of those things. But just sometimes it's just like it'll just like you're not thinking I need written, but it's just like like you're at a show or something or wherever, and then you just fucking do it, and then you're just like, oh sweet, like that was pretty good or whatever,
Yeah.
And like I remember when Mike Dwyer was on here, he's he said that, and then I was saying, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, he's right, because then and I was thinking it was a time at an open mic. It was like a week or two before, and I saw that episode, and he did something like that where it was just like he riffed it was really fucking good. It got good laughs. I'm like, that was fucking good, man. And it had to do with like, because this dude that went up, he had like there was like. It was crazy amount of chicks that came there. It was like his friends that were there, female. It was like 20 to 30 of them or something crazy.
You're joking. Like, really?
Yeah, seriously. Well, if I'm off on the number, that was like at least 15. I'm telling you, it was a big group.
You remember?
Maybe 20
you remember the
to
movie
30,
with
15 to 20. Bro.
That's just so funny because like I'm thinking of the movie Catch Me If You Can with like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
And when he had all those the what do you call them, the flight attendants with him.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like that's exactly what that would look like. You have a dude walk in with like 20 girls.
Yeah.
Why do you need that? Like what could possibly be the purpose of bringing all of those girls to an open mic?
It was nuts, dude. But that Mike, like he saw it as like a good opportunity, man, to just kind of riff off that, and it was fucking awesome. And and I forget what the hell he said, just like I'm forgetting those last names and some other shit too. But it's just like when he said it, dude, it was just like it was funny. And then of course right away I'm like, because I already went out. I'm like, I'm so stupid. Like I should have like thought of some, at least whatever. Not like it's exactly, but it's just like yeah, man. There's like a lot of shit and that whole situation with like bringing all those girls. Where it's just like if you're just like thinking about it and just like but like you just like make an effort. But I learned from that. It's just like all the time with mics. There's so many things you can learn from. But that's like one of those things where it was like,
well, I think it's acknowledgement. I think it's just like it's one of the rules of improv, right? Like if something is happening in the room, you must acknowledge it, and so because the entire room's already thinking it. So as soon as he says that,
and those could be gold,
like,
man. And his was good. Like it got some like really damn good laughs.
And everybody's going to remember that more than they're going to remember those jokes you were going to do. Like, they remember that moment that you just created in that. Because it's like we were saying before about how, like, you can capture a moment, like, he captured that moment in a way.
Yeah,
you can't joke about that anywhere else.
Dude. Yeah, those could be really fucking good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember just, like, after that mic, just thinking, like, all right, man, like you need to, at least attempt to like capitalize on those kind of situations, man, because it's like shit like that can be presented to you and just like, all right, here's a good opportunity for you, man. Like
you gotta be looking for it though.
Yeah, you gotta be looking for it.
You won't see it if you're not looking, and that's what's so I think that's probably what's so frustrating about that story to you is you didn't even see it until he did that, and you're like, oh my god, like it was right there in front of me.
Yeah, but I do remember at some point I was thinking, because I remember thinking something like kind of like recognizing, like, all right, man, there's some shit there, but it was just like, but I don't know why, but it was just like, I couldn't like figure out like what it was. And then when he did it, I'm like, oh, it's so obvious or whatever. It was just, something like how they all wanted to like sleep with him or something or whatever. And it was like, it crushed when Mike said it, and then once like, and then it's like, and then maybe somebody else said something else, once you start hearing like somebody else, and then it's like, like, oh, like, and it's just, and then it's shit comes to you, and it's just like, oh, of course, like that kind of shit. You say that or whatever. But it's like, they
opened the floodgates.
Yeah, but when I had the thought, I'm like, okay, because I realized like something was there, but I just think my head, it wasn't theirs, to like give it that much time, because I think it was one of those nights for me. It was just like, from what I remember, it was like, there was something new in my bit or something. It was just like, I was just more concerned about was just, it was just like with this certain part. And I know it's like, Ron Bloom said this, on, the episode when he was on here. And I was like, I'm the exact same way. He was basically saying, because you were asking, I can't remember your exact words, but just something like, do you get nervous before doing a set or whatever? And then he was basically saying, no, but, when I do a new bit, how he's just like, he just wants to be like real particular about like, and I'm the same way. It's just like, you got to say it like word for word, because sometimes you just say the wrong fucking word or say a certain word the wrong way or whatever. When it's new,
ruin the whole thing.
It can just throw it off, and then it's just dog shit or whatever. And when he described like how he gets like that with the new bit, I'm like, I'm the exact same way. And then I remember it was like a day or two before I watched that. and I'm like 100% I did because I just like experienced that like a couple days before, and it's just like completely different, like night and day. I noticed like how it is in my body. It was just like, oh, just like I feel different. I'm a lot more looser, and I do shit I've just done one other time. But if it's like the first time, and like certain, like I have to say this word or not that word, because like when you're writing shit, like certain things, it was just like you may, the first whatever, like there may be like a first version of that where it's like you chose this word, but then you realize this word will be better, and there's shit like that or whatever. But you just kind of know, like, all right, man, it's important to just like you got to get word for word, man, like But
Well, depending on your
certain
style.
bits.
Yeah, because
There
like
could be
someone like Mike Dwyer does not have to
Yeah,
do that.
and
He
it's
can
not
say
right.
whatever
It's
he
not for
wants.
everybody, but it's just certain bits and certain comics. It's like that.
Absolutely.
And certain ones,
That's
just
how I am with music. I mean, I have
Right.
to say everything the exact correct way. I
Yeah.
think that's probably. I mean, I don't remember my exact conversation with Ron, but I'm sure that's what I said to him. I'm sure I said the same thing. It's like, my style of writing music is the exact same as that, where I have to. It's so specific that if I were to change a single word, it would not be the same. And so, like, you know, but with comics, with the difference is, like, the timing of it, like, you can, if you're building up to a very
that plays a big
specific
part.
topic and then I mention an aspect I wasn't supposed to mention yet, like if I just mention, a certain word, I can ruin the entire thing.
And that's when you get like a what the fuck or whatever, and just like people are just like they say something and they're just like what the hell,
Yeah.
and they're just like all right, and you just like you totally like can lose them or whatever,
I think it's a form of self-sabotage a lot of the time because, like, in the comedian's mind, they're already nervous and they're already kind of going through the motions in their mind, and then they start fucking up. It's not usually like if you can fool yourself and just pretend to be confident, it's like a fake it till you make it thing. I think usually that's the answer.
and catch yourself,
Yeah.
because that's what I've noticed with me. It was just like, I had my times. This was like in my earlier days with stand-up. At the mics, it was just like, if I go to like a place I've never been to before or whatever, and I just noticed like that kind of thing would like trigger something. It was just like, it would start to trigger like a little bit of a negative, like talking, inside my head or whatever. But it's just like, I noticed, I'm just like, well, I just catch it right away. And then I'm all good. And then, but that's the thing, you just got to catch it before you, because if you don't catch it, then it can get like fucking out of control or whatever.
Right.
And then that's when it's just a big problem. But it's just like, I know that's the thing, which is like, it's the whole like, everybody says this shit too, but it's just like, it's just with stand up, it's just a big part of it. It's just like, it's just so much like learning and just noticing, like what shit works and this and that, and just trying to pick up on it as much as you can, and that kind of thing with with like learning the lessons and stuff. And it's just and it's just like I just know it's just like, well, if any of that negative shit, I just try to pick up on it quick before it gets too out of hand, and it just seems to work for me. And it was like before stand up, I was it's just like I don't know why, but it was just like I was never that way with shit. It was just something about with stand up, it brought that out of me or for whatever reason.
Brought what out exactly?
It's just kind of just like with catching like a negative like a mindset or whatever, like where before I'm going to do something and just like totally just like turning it around and just like what I mean. I don't know, it's just like I think maybe like the fact that I'm like passionate about stand up and stuff, it's just maybe that has something to do with it. But it's just like I just started doing stuff with stand up where it's just like I would never do before. It was just like it was just like it was a lot more positive habits and shit. It was just like because I wanted my my bits to be, really good or whatever. And it's just like, and it was just like positive habits and shit that I would like start doing that I would never do before stand up or whatever.
Yeah, man.
And it was just, but it's not, it's not like specifically related to stand up, but it's just like positive things in general, just helping like anything in life. It's just like with which is like catching the negative shit before it ggets out of hand, and just like like shit like that. It was just like, but that was the first time where I've noticed, like with stand up, where it was just like it was just like where I just like really like noticed it, where where I just like made a big effort and it totally paid off, and it was just like I don't know, for whatever reason it took that for me, but there's just so many different things where it's like I notice I take from stand up, and it's just like all these different like things, like lessons and this and that, where it's just like I don't know, it just seems like I'm just like I have my times where I'm just like, man, maybe I'm like doing a lot better than I realized, because it was just like, I don't know, it's just like you just get in these like habits and doing these things of going to mics all the time and this and that. You get kind of used to it and it gets normal. But it's just like sometimes, you just need, like, some people, I don't know, you just gotta like look at it a different way. I'm just like, holy shit, I may be like farther along in certain things that I realize and this and that, and just like, and I could be like sucking dick for crack right now, but I'm not. I'm going to mics and I'm making people laugh and like whatever. But
I
it's
could be the
just like,
crackhead on the subway.
yeah, like it's all kinds of like great, because sometimes it's just like when you get into like stuff that's hard, like with stand up and shit like that, sometimes like it be like discouraging and this and that, but it's just like, well, it's all about like perspective. With anything in life, I've noticed it's just like perspective is huge.
Oh yeah.
And that's just like something with like the past couple of years, I've just been really like, just been like realizing that and just like trying to put more, and I have my times where it's just like, oh, I could let this get out of hand. That's the thing. It's just like, you always have that fucking choice, man. You can let it like get to you and let it drive you fucking crazy, or you can just like, when shit, like bad shit happens, and it's just like, you can look at it like, I don't know. And usually when in the beginning phases, like something bad happens to you, it's just like, you have that fucking choice. You can look at it like, yeah, this sucks, but like there's something like really fucking good that's going to come out of this. And I've had some situations where it's just like, I was just determined, like, I'm like, something good is going to come out of this, and I'm going to figure it out. And right now I have no idea what the fuck it's going to be. But it's just like, I remember like that thinking of just like it's going to happen. And then when it happens, and it's just like the positives are just like so huge, and it's just like okay, and it's just, but I noticed it's just like, because I made myself have that perspective. I made myself like look like, hey man, you're gonna figure it out. You're gonna look. I had to like dig and search and shit for like the positive of this situation or whatever. But it's just like, if you fucking do it, like you'll find it. And then it's like one of those situations where it's just like a lot of them where it's just like people realize like when you go through it, it's hell, and it's like this is brutal. But then years down the road, you just realize, well, that happened for a reason, or you make it. You make things happen. You figure shit out where it's just like, where it's just like, yeah, I played a big part in making it, like a positive thing out of shit or whatever.
Yeah, you don't really realize what it is you're doing in the moment. You
Yeah.
can't. You just like, based on how it works being a human, you just don't understand, I don't know if you ever watched the show The Office, but it's a great quote from like the very last episode.
Yeah, but it's been a while. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's the character Andy who says it, but it's like you don't really realize it's the old times until they're over, or something like that, or the good old days.
Like the good old days, yeah.
You don't know it's the good old days until they're ending, like they're over. And it's just so true, Like,
yeah,
you get so used to the rhythm of things and the way things are, and then something comes along and changes your
Yeah,
life.
you have to go through something different, to realize, like, holy shit, I had it really good then.
Yep, and that perspective kind of, it does something to you, I think. Like
triggers, yeah.
Hopefully it does. You gotta hope so, I mean, I've had conversations with people about that have made me realize, like, that you could write a whole book about that idea. Like, just the fact that there are things that happen in your life. Things, like, it could be anything. Just life-changing, life-altering events that push you into a whole different state of being. And, like, that's just a thing you can observe throughout people, whether it be like a traumatic event, or maybe you stumble into a bunch of money, maybe you lose a bunch of money.
And if
maybe
that didn't happen, you wouldn't have been in that spot or whatever, that transition, or whatever, that wouldn't have taken place. Yeah, that kind of thing.
It makes you something. It changes your life, and it puts a different perspective on things. And I think like it's just so interesting to when it happens to you, one day it will. You think it will never be me, and then one day it is. That's how it always goes, dude. I mean, it got me over the last couple of years. Life happened to me real fast. I'm like, oh my God, but it makes you think about things, and you need that sometimes. You actually do. Like, even though in the moment, it's like, I can't believe that this is happening right now. There's a fire that burns beneath you when life begins to truly unravel itself, And it's important. I think it feeds into, like, if you're an artist, that type of thing reminds you what it's all about too, like what you're even really doing with all that. I mean, I think comedy's an art form. I really do. I think that it's it's truly, if done properly, it is like a Jedi art, you know. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But when it's done well, it looks easy, and that's the magic of it, you know. So
Yeah.
it's the same thing, you know. Comedians, often you hear that, like they had something that ignited a flame within them, and then it just ever since they've chased comedy, you know. Like usually it's an event. Literally,
Yeah.
usually it's some tragedy. You're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I got into a car accident and now I'm a comedian. You're like, all right, makes sense. That checks out. I've literally
a lot
heard
of that
one.
shit
Yeah.
seems like very true, man. It's just like, you hear it all the time, or it's just like, sometimes I hear it so much or whatever, but it's just like, it seems like it's true. It's just like, you just hear like all the comedians, it's just like, we've all like been through like some shit, and it's just like, it's like, that's kind of like the prerequisite. It's like you know, you kind of have to fucking do it or whatever. It's just like, you have to like, you know, you have to like go through your shit or whatever. But it just seems like, I don't know, I think about it, it's like, well, who has? It just seems like everybody fucking has. So, but,
Oh, yeah.
but I mean, of course, too, people have been through more shit than others or whatever. But it's just like, but all those things, man, but it took me a while to get the perspective of this shit. But it's just like, you know, with me, with like the Browns chicken and all these things. And you brought this up before in some of your episodes. You go through some like bad trips and shit.
Oh yeah, that'll get you.
That stuff can be huge, man, as far as like, and the good ones too. But it's just like, for me, I don't know, it's just something about with the bad ones. It's just, I don't know. I just like, I think about it. I'm just like, I'm at the time, of course, I wasn't happy about it, but I'm glad I have gone through those bad trips,
It's
man.
the same thing.
And
I think it's an
it make-
amplified form of what we were just talking about.
Yeah, and it's like, because I look at it, man, I'm just like, man, I made it through those fucking nights. And some of those like trips were fucking brutal.
Yep.
And I'm just like, you know, I could be going through something in the future, and it's like, it's at first like, oh, this seems kind of bad, but then you think about it, like, yeah, but it's nothing like that night back in '98 on that white blotter when I kept on saying, make it stop, and it's just like, you think about it, you're like, yeah, like that was fucking hell, and I made it through it. And then you have a perspective change, and it's just like, you know, and it's just like, and you think about it, like, yeah, there's a lot of positives that came through that, even though it was like hell at that time.
And it's impossible to see it in that moment. In that moment, you're dying.
Oh, yeah.
In that moment, it's all over.
Yeah, it's brutal, man.
I've had trips where I like hysterically cried. Like I just felt like the deepest sadness, and I remember like it was just such a profound sense of sadness that I felt. And you would call that a bad trip, but I thought it was very cathartic. Like I remember afterwards thinking, like, I guess I just had to do that. I guess I just had to cry. You know, I like tripping by myself for those reasons. Whatever it is that my soul needs to have happen, it will happen. You know, and so I've had some interesting experiences.
Yeah, that could be best too. It just depends on the person and the trip and everything. But it's just like, but if you're around too many people and the wrong person or people, I mean, that could just trigger some really bad stuff to happen in your trip or whatever. So it's just, you know, it just all depends, man. But it's like, but it's all good, man. It's just like, even though like the negative ones are like horrible, but it's just like, you realize afterwards, and it may be the next day or it could be 2 years later or whatever. But it's at some point, it just seems like, for me, it's just like, you realize like, well, no, it was, you know, it was good or whatever. And it's just like, you know, I just like looking at those experiences, like I made it through that shit and it was fine. You know, I made it through the Browns chicken and like, you know, it's like the worst experiences, man. It's just like, you make it through that and it's like, it's fine. It wasn't a big deal. I made it through all that shit. And then when you go through situations where they seem like it's hell and you just like completely turn around, like I was saying something a little bit about it before, but it was just like, you know, but this is this kind of thing where it's just like, where I kind of like, I'm like, all right, I'm going to make an effort to just like totally like turn this thing around. And then once you do it and you're just like, holy shit. And then you end up being in a place that's just like way more positive. You're way more better off than you would ever like realize in that situation or whatever. And you're just like, holy shit. And it's just, you know, it's just like all that shit. It's just like, and people, you know, you hear it all the time or whatever. People say this shit all the time. It's just like, you got to go through the shitty times and, you know, to enjoy the sunshine or however they word it, you know, but it's just like, you know, it's just part of it. You just got to go through that shit.
I mean, it's like it's just like a bad set will lead to a good set. It's the same exact principle. You know, like it might seem like, you know, in this moment everything is terrible, but truly like it's life is an interesting, like what does Mama say? Life is like a box of chocolates. You know,
Yeah.
you never know what you're gonna get, but it's really true. Like, you know, and I think the fun part is finding those moments and finding the wisdom in it and finding the life in it. You know, and
Yeah, and the surprises when the ones that you don't, they
Yeah.
kind of surprise you, like holy shit, or what, that
that's
kind of
the
thing, or
best
whatever.
part is the surprises.
Yeah.
Man. The stuff you wouldn't predict, the stuff that
Yeah.
just kind of naturally blossoms out of, and I think like life constantly reminds you that you do have to like chase those surprises, that they don't come naturally. You have to find them and look for them, and they don't just show up at
Yeah.
your doorstep. Like that's why you got to keep putting yourself out there and doing what you do, whatever it is. Surprises don't just roll up. They happen when you surprise everybody else, I guess. Put out your own little surprises. And I think like it's the people you surround yourself with too. If you surround yourself with surprising
Yeah,
people,
that stuff is huge. Yeah,
yeah.
influence, that kind of thing, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, before I have a show I'm going to be going to here in a little while, so I have a little more time. So I want to make sure before we get out of here, we do mention that character of yours, and you tell us the story of, you say Franklin? Is that it?
Stanley.
Stanley. Forgive me, Lord, forgive me.
Named after the Stanley tape measure.
How can I forget?
But
Named
now
after
you
the
always
Stanley tape measure.
Yeah, you'll always be like oh, I know right away. Not Franklin, named after the wasn't there Franklin baseball mitts?
Yeah, Franklin
Maybe
baseball mitts.
that's a possibility for
named
a
after
character to be in the
Franklin
future.
Roosevelt. Franklin Roosevelt,
Yeah.
the beautiful president, the most attractive president, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to. I can't. Well, I can't comment because I just have to. I have to look at all of them again or whatever to say. But
I just, I've never said that before out loud, but as I say it and I think about it, I might be right. He might actually be like on the top, if that's what you're into.
Right.
I'm not an Abe Lincoln type. He's a cool guy, but attractive. I don't know. Just saying. I'm just putting that out there. Okay.
yeah,
I haven't talked to. I'm
in the land of Lincoln, where we are.
Yeah. I mean, who else is like an attractive? I guess like if you could say that Bill Clinton was attractive, but again, like not for me, not my kind of attractive. Like Teddy Roosevelt.
He got a Hummer in the White House.
Yeah, that's not. It's not striking my fancy or anything like that. You need to woo me. You show up on a horse, you're wooing me. Teddy Roosevelt was like he wasn't the one that couldn't walk, was he? That was somebody. That was Taft.
Yeah, I think that was a different one. But it just seems like the old school ones just seem to be more impressive. It just seems like, I don't know, but
they were cooler.
Yeah.
I feel like they actually had to be cool back then.
Yeah.
they had to like have cool points. Now they don't really need to do that. They just need to advertise well. But back then,
yeah, it was probably
cool.
just completely different kind of
for
thing. There just
sure.
seems like it's just
probably all the way up until like early 1900s, mid 1900s. Do you have like a whole different aura surrounding presidents?
Yeah, they probably gave a shit about the people then.
They had to. They at least had to pretend.
Yeah.
They had to pretend that they did a little
back
bit
when they cared. It's just it's like, what the hell?
Yeah. That was back when,
yeah, they're supposed to be working for us, and it's just like, well, and it's just like when they're spending money on like other countries and all this shit that doesn't make sense. It's like, all right, what the fuck is going on? Like, what this doesn't.
Dude, it's crazy. I mean, I think.
And I'm the type, I don't bring up that kind of shit a lot. But sometimes it's so ridiculous. You just every once in a while, you just got to be like, yeah, like what the fuck? And I'm not like a big political, but it's just like, yeah, when it's just so ridiculous, it's just like sometimes you just have to like mention. It's just like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, come on. It's like, what the hell is going on?
I mean, I just think it's like so beyond obvious now that the scales are tipped in one direction. Like if just follow the money, folks. All you got to do is follow the money. If you think about us as America as just one giant business, it all starts making so much more sense. And that's what's so crazy about the whole thing is like, if America's intents were true, if it was true that we want all Americans to suffer or to not suffer and to all live in harmony and peace, and we want to create opportunities for one another, that's the American dream. Wouldn't you think that would be the thing the government would pursue more than anything else?
Yeah.
You know, you'd think you'd sink a little more money into, I don't know, national disasters. Like maybe a hurricane rolls through.
So
Maybe
when
we give
something
them
does
some
happen,
money.
Yeah, you have money to help them out.
I mean, like,
That
that's what
shit was
blows my
nuts.
mind, dude. Like, stuff like that. It's just so obvious that you can't even ignore it anymore. You know, they all I want to say is that they don't really care about us. I mean, Michael Jackson said it pretty well once, you know?
Yeah.
It's just crazy, dude. And that's what it's really all about. And that's what I try to always say and think about. And, like, you know, I think people get lost on stupid cultural issues when truly it's like, you know, it's people that would love for us to argue about stupid cultural issues because that's the exact way you make it so no one's going to talk about you stealing all their money.
Yeah.
Dude, everything is like that now. Video games steal all your money. Streaming services steal all your money. YouTube steals all. We're talking before we start here. TikTok's trying to steal all your money. Like everything.
It's like
steals
it's
your money.
everywhere. It seems like it's nuts.
It's just infected everything, and so like you know, it's like what you said. You don't even want to talk about it, but at a certain point, you're just looking at it like, this is crazy. This is actually crazy.
It's like every once in a while, you just kind of have to like say something.
Am I a crazy person? Like you're looking at it like, am I crazy or is the world crazy? And the answer is the world's crazy. It's not you. We are actually, because I just think it's one of those things where people do have to say things. It will just keep being that way unless something changes. And I think people like how we're saying, like people want real, people want a reality, people want real performances, people want real things. People can sense when these things are all about money and all about like the intention is that. Yeah. And then it turns people off. And I think like society and all of us as a whole will turn around and we won't want all this, you know. It seems like we're heading in a direction that's more and more of this stuff, but I just think, you know, people in the end, we're human beings. We do want real things, you know.
Right, and certain things are showing that we do want real. It's just like with now these days where it's like, you know, podcasts are getting more views than shows. It's just like a comedian or whatever, he could go on, and of course, like this is like the number one podcast, most like Rogan's or whatever. But it's just like our other ones too. It's like they can go on those podcasts and get way more views and get people turned on to them way more than if they went on, like a late night talk show.
It is the new late night talk show, like
right?
Going on
it's just
Joe
like
Rogan's
the numbers are
thing.
just blows those numbers away, and it's all about because it's just like those podcasts. It's just like people are just like being themselves, and it's just like there's no like producers and whatever with the that are saying you can't say this, can't say that, this and that. It's just people just being themselves and doing whatever the fuck they want. And of course, there's it's like a YouTube or whatever. It's like certain things maybe you can't do or whatever. But it's just like for the most part, it's just like that's the thing with podcasts. Where it's just like you're saying, it's just like people are gonna get tired of shit after a while, and it's just like we just want real shit.
I'm glad you said that though, because podcasts are a great example of that, that exact thing where it's like
it seems like it's just huge.
When I bring people in, I try to tell them that's because that's how I do my podcast. I want it to be just a real conversation between the two of us. I don't want it to be like this thing where I'm trying. Because then you wouldn't get the same version of somebody, and I think in the end, that's what's so magical.
Influence from like whatever somebody that's like a fucking whatever with the company, and it's like I think you should do that. That's when it just gets to be a bunch of bullshit.
Like if somebody's telling you I have to talk to these people I don't even really want to talk to, and people are scheduling it for you.
And
they're saying you can't talk about X, Y, or Z.
And they're writing stuff for you that you don't think is funny, and it's just like what
And then what happens then is you get something so inauthentic. And that is literally what you just described is the way that all of these minds operate that have been in this stratosphere for so long. That's why these shows are still trying to do what they do. They're still trying to like be the late night talk show, even though the late night talk show format is just not, it doesn't have that same thing that it used. Like if you watch a late night talk show interview, they still pretend that they didn't script this whole interview, like that. We all know that the game that you're playing with the guest is something you guys rehearsed beforehand. Like they'll do this guess the song thing where they'll put headphones on, they'll pretend that they can't hear what Jimmy Fallon is saying, and then he'll lip sync but it's all fake. And it's like we all know it's fake. So why are you doing it? Why
Yeah,
are you doing
they do
this?
like the songs out of nowhere. They start singing a song. You know, it's like, oh, like they've never done it before. It's like, yeah, you can tell, like you rehearsed that song or whatever, like shit
Yeah.
like that. And it's like, all right, it's like whatever.
Just like why?
Yeah.
Because that's why podcasts and things like that
Yeah.
resonate so much.
And I
more.
don't miss TV, dude. I dropped cable a long time ago, and it's like I don't miss that shit. I don't care. And it's just like, you know, I had a period where my mom like moved in with me for a little bit or whatever before she moved in where she's at now, and she you know, she insisted on having cable, and I was like, all right. But it's just like when she was watching TV, it's like I wasn't like, oh, I miss this shit and like whatever. And it's just like a lot of times she would watch Fallon, and I would be in the other room like doing something. And I'm just like hearing what's going on. It's like some of it is funny, but some of it's like you were saying. It's just like no, I prefer just like normal, like real shit, just like a podcast. It's just
Well,
like
I think like it allows for you to connect with somebody too. Like you can really understand somebody if you listen to them talk for an hour and a half. You're getting to know them.
It's a long form like that, yeah. And that's like with, you know, with with the podcast with, you know, with like not to get all political or whatever, but it's just like, you know, with like Trump and shit like that. It's just like, well, if you or with anybody, but it's just that's just a good example.
you know what?
But it's
That's-
just like you get like long form shit like that, like long, you know, if someone's on a podcast for 2 or 3 hours or whatever, and you're asking them shit, you know, questions. They're being you know, it's like a lot of times you can tell if they're being truthful. It's just like you're really getting the, you know, to know.
I think it's cool that Trump did that in the way that Joe Rogan normally does the show. That was a really smart move. He didn't ask him to do anything else or change anything, because really that's like the tell. That's why, I mean, like
That shit is rare for like anyone. It just seems like in politics before. It just seems like, you know, before, I don't know.
if you remember
some
correctly,
here
it
and
was
there.
Bernie Sanders that was the first.
Or he was
real-
original. Okay.
when he was on Joe Rogan. That was the
Yeah.
first time that barrier.
But before
had been
that,
broken.
it was just like none
Nobody.
of them were doing that shit. And it was just like, and then it's like, it just seems like you can't get like any kind of read on these fucking people because it's just, you know, their objectives and all that shit or whatever. But it's just like,
You can't. But
Yeah.
at a certain point, like you
Before-
talk for 3 hours, you can't fake
yeah.
it with.
And it's like, you don't really know what, like how they really think about shit. And it's just like, it's just so different when you're talking with someone for that long. And it's just, you know, it's just, I think everybody just, you know, got to a point where it's just like, all right, we need this kind of shit because we're getting tired of all this bullshit. You know, it's just like, you know, it's like enough is enough.
Yeah, dude. And honestly, like, I hope that I have like that effect with even this show. Like, I truly hope that I can just, you know, just present people without all that bullshit, because I see it time and time again.
It is. Yeah.
Well, just like even in little things people do, like the way that people will do podcasts, for example. You know, there are podcasts that exist that are smaller podcasts, but they're all I just see it and I'm like, that's not what I would do. You know, it's too showy. They're trying to be too showy with it. They're trying to entertain. And I think the magic happens when you forget all of that and you just talk like you would normally talk. Like you and I talked like we're talking now 30 minutes before we ever turned a camera on and put microphones in front of our faces.
Right.
And that's
It's
what's
just,
cool.
Yeah, it just wasn't being recorded before or
Yup.
whatever.
And like if you can do that, do that. Like
Yeah.
don't go and try to make it this thing, and you're doing too much, you know? You're trying to be fancy.
Yeah.
And, but
earlier,
that's me. That's just my, you know, that's why I do it the way I do it. But that's, you know, it's you capture something that way. So, and I want more real shit, dude. That's all I want. I just want people to realize there is real shit in the world, you know? We're not all becoming AI robots, I promise.
Yeah.
There's real stuff out here. We all have souls still. Trust me.
yeah.
Sometimes I wonder.
Right. Yeah, I hear you.
Sometimes I wonder. I'm like, are these robots taking over? Am I an AI? Am I AI already? I'm not sure. You know. No, but for real, dude. I mean, all you can do is do that. Is just be real. You know, just put yourself out there and be real. You know, and then maybe that shift begins to occur. Yeah, slowly but surely. You know, how else do you do it? How else do you shift the tides? How else do you?
It makes sense to me, man.
Well, and even with like politics, dude. Like, you know, I think people will get stuck on one thing, and all you can really do is address the reality of it. Like, just be real and just try to move people forward to a more positive place rather than getting caught on this artificial bullshit that we argue
That's
about.
the thing that really gets me is it's all the bullshit and the lies and it's all that stuff and it's it's just like, come on, it's like people can see through that stuff.
I think deep down we all can.
Yeah, and then when stuff comes up like with the hurricanes, like you were saying before, it's that when there's like proof and it's just like, all right, these people need money and the money's not there. And then when they say what they spent the money on instead, and it's just like, you fucking get, it's like, what the hell? Like, that's so ridiculous.
It's something everybody would agree on.
Yeah, it's just so crazy. It's like they don't have money for them because money was given to other countries. It's like, wait, shouldn't we be fucking number one? Like, it doesn't make sense. And it's just like, but these other, it's just like we're helping country, like they come to us as they want help and we're just like, sure, it's fine. It's like, that's so crazy. It's like you should just be like no until we're whatever, until we're we feel like we can give out a little or something. But it's just so crazy.
I mean, it's funny now too because we're literally at the point now where like the government will literally just lie to your face. Like before they used to like try to make up lies that were like cute and sweet and made sense. At this point,
it was like
they're just
somewhat recently or whatever it wasn't like last year. So it was just like they just got so ridiculous. It's like they didn't even care anymore to try to cover it up. It was like, it was like, are you kidding me? Like it's just got so crazy. It's just like, all right, brazen. Like they don't even give a fuck to even try to attempt to to cover it up at all. They're just like whatever. It's like, all right, that's when it's just like really ridiculous. It's like, okay, like Jesus Christ.
Who knows, man? Who knows? And in the end, I think the best thing we can do too is look at it like a comedy. It's all just for funsies, guys. Life's too short to sit here and get all dramatic. And
a lot of times, if you pay attention, it's just like, because you hear like people say we live in a simulation theory. It's just like I have my times where I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised because you pay attention. There's certain things that are so crazy and like how they correlate and like certain things happen and like something may be brought up in a book or TV show or whatever. And then it happens to me and all this shit like that. Where it's just like, where it makes you think, well, maybe we do live in a simulation. Maybe somebody did like write this at some point. But it's just like, if you pay attention to there's just a lot of funny things and just like a lot of crazy shit. And it's like I was saying before, it's all about perspective. But definitely like paying attention to shit, man. Like there's just like a lot of shit. It's just like, holy shit, if you notice it.
Yeah. It's crazy. My fun little thing I like to think is that the simulation is like caving in on itself. And Terence McKenna had a thing he called novelty theory. And so he thought that around 2012, when the Mayan calendar ended, that was like he came to this conclusion on his own, but it happened to coincide with the Mayan calendar.
I think he was talking about that on Rogan's?
His brother was, because he never went on Rogan, but his brother did.
That sounds like super familiar to me.
Dennis McKenna, I think is his brother's name.
Yeah, okay.
But so he had the novelty theory, and like there was his grand theory that he had presented before he passed away, and I think he said he came through it through a mushroom trip. And just that everything is going to reach a level of novelty where as humans we've reached our like peak. We're going to then like start basically becoming like an echo of ourselves. Like we can't really be human anymore. We're going to become something else. And so he timed that to be right around 2012. And if you just look at like how society falls apart from 2012 onward, it makes sense. Crazy how accurate that number is. The fact he said that back in like the mid 60s, like the mid 70s. He said 2012 is where it's all.
And there's other examples that are similar to that where it's like, people will predict shit, and then and it's like, whoa, when it happens, it's like, that's fucking like you crazy.
Said, maybe it is a simulation, man. Like, who knows? Maybe, and like I said, maybe the simulation is caving in on itself. Like maybe literally, it's gotten too complicated. The computer is not meant to handle all of this, and so now you have literal things that couldn't be real becoming reality. Like maybe people are right. Maybe there is like some alternate. What do they call it? Where it's like the Mandela effect. Like maybe the Mandela effect is people from the other simulations crossing over to this simulation. Like maybe they're right, dude. I don't know. The world is so. The older and older you get, the more and more you realize like all that stuff you thought was crazy when you were younger. Like maybe it's all true. Like maybe there are witches. Like maybe those spiritual ladies who are talking about how the stars mean something. Maybe they're right. You just start realizing nothing really makes sense, but yet it all lines up in this crazy way at the same time. Like the world is just an absolutely weird place to be, and in ways it's beautiful, in other ways it is an absolute catastrophe, but you gotta love it, you know. You gotta just keep moving on and enjoying it, because otherwise what are you doing, you know?
Right.
It's a fun simulation. If it's a simulation, dude, I actually am glad I am in it at the exact time I am. Like, if I was in the simulation 100 years ago, that might have been a tougher life, you know.
Yeah, this time
1925
seems pretty cool. I mean, it's you know, it's all perspective too, like I was saying before. But it's like some people could say like other times right now suck, but it's just like, I don't know, man. I think this is pretty fucking cool.
You
like
can do most things.
Yeah, and then it's just it's wild, and just think about like all these things where you just like we have like no idea about, you know, like with the pyramids and Egypt and all these things, and it's just like there's just so much shit that we don't know about, you know. It's just, I don't know, it's crazy, but it's just this time seems like it's pretty cool, and I'm appreciative of how I had a period to where I was, you know, experiencing life and concerts and shit without a cell phone and shit like that.
Yep.
And then just, you know, experiencing the shit now. I don't know. It definitely makes the shit interesting or whatever. When you have the before and after with that shit, you know.
I
and
know.
who knows what's like, you know, what we'll be talking about down the road. We're like, yeah, before this came about, whatever the fuck it'll be, you know, who knows?
They're saying it's smart glasses. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, there's gonna be all kinds of smart shit. It's probably gonna be crazy with
Yeah. Well, it'll be 20 years from now. We'll be like, man, we didn't even have smart refrigerators back then.
Yeah.
Those refrigerators didn't even have Wi-Fi, dude. Like, back we couldn't even plug our phones into that couch he was sitting on. I can't believe that, you know. It'll be shit like that, dude.
Yeah.
It'll be stuff we're not even thinking like could be a thing right now. Dude, we weren't even wearing
we were like
caffeine socks.
Yeah, because we were like that with certain things. It was like, you know, with you know, I mean, to a certain extent with the internet shit, you know, and it's just
no one could have saw that coming.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's like, yeah, it's just nuts, and it's just like, you know, you don't realize like what the shit was like, you know. It's like, I don't know, it's like I have my times I appreciate my technology, but I have my times where I'm just like, I don't know, I'm like get like too fucking addicted to it or whatever.
Oh, dude, I mean, I truly think if we didn't have the opportunity, it would be a better world. The problem is it's there and it's too late. We all can do it, you know? If it wasn't constantly tempting everyone, you know, you wouldn't be sitting on the train and seeing everyone not looking at each other. Literally, no one looks at each other.
That's true.
It's crazy. If that wasn't an option, people would make eye contact.
Yeah, all right. Occasionally, like I just did this the other day, and yesterday, and I just like looked at this guy, but then I just like caught myself. I'm just like, oh, I should or whatever. But it's just like I don't want to be like staring at something. But it's just like, but you're saying it's a good point or whatever. But it's, you know,
it's created this world.
Yeah, and it's just like, but it's like at least I still. It's just like I just kind of did. At least I still have some of that in me, where it's just like, you know, I'm just not like completely just like glued to my phone and shit, and just like, you know, go to that all the damn time or whatever.
Yeah, man, it'll tear you apart. Like, really, if you're just constantly doing that, it'll just create a monster within you, you know? And again, that's why it's good to have an art or something that you pursue that you can get good at. Because I think, like, if you can't...
Yeah, you're doing it in front of people, and
and it's something that you can work at and get better. Whereas, like, scrolling on social media or just consuming shit, like, you're not gonna go anywhere doing that, you know? Like, even if you're just making little funny videos, like, you can get better at that. Like, you just got to find a thing to do and get better at. And I think there's just it's like how you said that you learn little lessons in comedy. You just learn little lessons by doing those things. Like, you figure life out in a way when you chase something, you know. Before we wrap this episode up, I always got to let the people, you get a final message if you want to send the folks home with the kids at home. They need inspiration. They want to learn something. You seem like a smart guy. You can give them some knowledge. Well, now's your chance. And also, the social medias. The people who have been listening, they want to know how to find you. Now you let them know. The floor is yours, sir.
Okay, I'll say this: if you have a passion, and I said a little something about this earlier, but and this is nothing new, but it's just sometimes it's just good to get a reminder about this. You know, if you just have anything where it's just like you can tell years down the road that you'll be like kicking yourself if you didn't try it. You can just tell like there's something that you'll probably be passionate about if you don't realize that, you know, whatever, you just have a certain feeling about it, but it's just you kind of know, but it's something where it's like you haven't tried it yet, just whatever it may be, stand up, porn, whatever, just like as long as it's like healthy for you or whatever, and other people, just like fucking go for it. And if it doesn't go super great the first time, don't give up either, and it's just like hang in there. It's like you usually know if it's like something where you like it or love it enough where it's just like you want to hang in there and just do it, even though it's scary. It's like, who cares? Just like fucking do it, and then just and then try to get help and feedback from people that seem like that are honest about it. They're not going to steer you in the wrong way. And then just like with the shit that I was saying with stand up, just try to like take lessons from each time you're doing that thing, and then and be yourself when you do it. Do a version of whatever it is. You do it. The main thing is like that you love it first. That's got to be the main thing, and that you love that version of it or whatever, and then from what they say, like the shit will follow. Just go from there. And then so with my social media, so basically Facebook and not TikTok anymore, but on Facebook, on YouTube, it's just my full name, Douglas Wanderski, and then my Instagram is Douglas Wanderski Comedy.
As your underscores?
Underscore. I'm sorry, I didn't say the underscore. Yeah, underscore after my first name and my last name.
Hell yeah,
and
dude.
That's pretty much it for now.
All right.
I'm not on OnlyFans yet.
Yet.
Yeah, that'll never happen.
But he did tell me before we filmed this that he would do OnlyFans-esque content exclusively for you guys on the Patreon. So I said, are you sure? I said, are you sure about that? He said, anything for the roosters. Anything for those roosters and chickens watching Roost Radio.
I'll make an exception,
for the roosters.
For you guys, yeah.
Yep. And so
the roosters.
I did you hear it? He just confirmed there will be some very interesting photos on the Patreon, folks. I'm just saying. All right, man. But hey, it was a pleasure having you here.
Thank you for having me on. I enjoyed it. It was fun, and it seemed like it was kind of therapeutic. And it was cool.
Hell yeah, man. We'll have you on again sometime.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah. This is Ruse is sidelining as a therapist. I'm moonlighting as a therapist, whatever you call it. All right. This is all like secretly my therapy audition. I'm gonna start charging people for therapy sessions. I'll be like, watch my podcast. You'll understand.
Yeah, it feels like it's therapeutic, man.
I'm glad to hear that, though, man. I mean, it's good to have that. I truly think that if it feels that way for you, it feels that way for people who listen to it. It's therapeutic. It's that reality we're talking about. I think people like it. I think people want to hear people just express themselves, because deep down we all want to do the same exact thing, and we all are attracted to that expression, that creativity. And that's what it's all about, guys. That's why I do what I do, anything that I do. I just want to see other people be creative and do creative things. And the humanity within all of us, that constant, that human spirit, that soul that strives to express itself, that is truly the fire that burns within everything. And it's the one thing that just reminds me what life is all about. If it's going to boil down to one thing, it's that human spirit. So just love to see it, love to keep it alive, and let's keep it alive for 2025. Thank you guys for watching Ruse Radio. Clocking out. Double down, competition couldn't help him to rock. Missed the whole time, holy fell through the flock. That's an ordinary miracle, wealth to the block. It's a balance in the character that's calm and collect. It's apparent his caricature is lost in the mess. It's hysterical, the picture that they put to his face. It's a confidence administered to earn their respect. Live a little, light a candle.